Welcome, everybody. This is D. Durrell with the Conscious Clientele. Happy to be here today. Um, we're going to be talking about Kirk Franklin. We're going to be talking about Kerrion Franklin. We will be discussing in depth the the basis of their relationship. I'm going to speak from a counseling perspective. I'm going to talk about the nature of the information that I was able to obtain that in some way coincides to why this particular situation occurred. Again, guys, before I get started, I also would like to make note that I am operating out of D. Durrell Life Solutions, and also I am operating out of D. Durrell The Rebirth and Twitch. So, as we get started, I want to preface the fact that this situation to me, hold on one second, guys. Okay, I'm back, guys. I had a bit of an issue. Just doing business. I'm at the office now, so from this point on, I don't cam up whenever I am doing a live stream while my clients are here. You know, since there are people who are basically watching me with a fine-tooth comb, watching me very closely, and they're waiting to see if I'm going to do something that basically goes against confidentiality. So I'm being extra careful. Had an issue with one of my vans being fixed, called AAA. They took care of that, and so here we go. So let me get back to everything. So like I was saying, um, so as I was saying, that relationship itself has a lot of different um, um, layers to it as it has evolved over time. There's a lot of things in regards to Kerrion that needs to be noted. And what's going on, Dr. Bombay? I appreciate you for being here. I want to continue to say that there are things that need to be noted that I think have led to the development of this relationship being as such. So before we get to that point, and I'm not going to play, I don't think it's necessary for me to play the video. I think everybody has heard the video itself, and you heard him calling him a BAN, and he was yelling at his father back in return. It was both a level of disrespect. And so they had to deal with that. They had to deal with the levels of disrespect. Okay, they had to deal with that the fact that they had an ongoing problem with showing each other respect over a long period of time, and that's something that needs to be noted as I will give my assessment of their situation. Okay, so I also want to point out that in their relationship, they have had a history of going to therapy. Okay. They've been going to therapy for over 10 years. However, the therapy was very inconsistent and pretty much was done at the will of the son. So if he didn't want to do it as an adult, he wouldn't do it. If he chose to do it, he would choose to do it. Plain and simple. You know, that's kind of how it went. His son to me was very rebellious. His son has some other issues that I'm going to speak of that I think again gives rise to the issues of their relationship. Let me start with Kirk Franklin. As we know, Kirk Franklin is one of the biggest gospel stars ever. He combined, hip hop, hyping the mic up, mic man. You know, he wasn't a singer, but he was a great producer and so forth. And he created music in the early early 90s that was, very popular. It was a mixture of traditional gospel and hip hop. He danced and did all kind of stuff that people loved, and he basically threaded the needle in what is gospel or not. So he was very popular. He was seen to me almost like a pop star. So with that being said, we have to understand that Kerrion is his first son, his oldest son. Also, we want to make note that Kerrion um, did not grow up with his father primarily. His mother was not. His mother didn't. And his mother and Kirk Franklin were never married. So he grew up in a different household. And one thing that I also want to note, and I think that it's important that we understand this, is that, and I want you to understand is that Kerrion's mother is anonymous. It's very little known about his mother. Okay, his mother, her identity is kept unknown, and I don't know the reason why, but for some reason that's the case, and for whatever reasons we have to respect that privacy. That's a situation. I don't know what is the basis of that, but she's anonymous. Okay, she remains anonymous, and no one really knows a lot about her. No one really knows anything in detail about her. So to me, it's very difficult to keep someone anonymous that long. Okay, guys, I am back. I just had a bit of an issue. Again, I'm doing this live at the practice, and so I just had to take care of some things. We had a client, some things. We had a client that was a little anxious, and so we had to deal with that. So again, his mother remains anonymous, and nobody really knows a lot about her. I think that's something that we want to keep note of as we discuss this particular situation. And I think that maybe by her own request that she wants to remain anonymous. And I can understand that. I can understand that. Okay. I can understand her wanting to remain anonymous. Most people, you know, they don't want people all in their business for whatever reasons. And she probably is a very private person, and she feels that was best that suits her. So we have to respect that. So I also want to make note as we continue to continue is that we also want to understand that Kerrion is also gay. And I want to repeat, Kerrion is also, he has sexuality. He had issues with his sexuality. And Kerrion has been identified as being LGBT. Now, we want to understand that in his coming out and understanding of this, his mother was very adamant about not supporting him with this. So he not only had issues with his mother, but he also had issues with his father, okay, about this issue. And we understand that they basically, for religious reasons, okay, for religious reasons, they did not support him in his um, his sexuality as far as the way he wanted to conduct his life. Okay. And that caused a lot of problems. So we want to definitely understand that in this brother's development, and he's probably struggled with his sexuality and so forth, that he had some levels of inadequacy as he went through this quest of being accepted and understanding how his family has views of his sexuality. So that in itself can cause a rift between him and his family alone. As a therapist, I've seen multiple situations of the fear of someone coming out that they're gay or they have an alternative lifestyle situation because they want to feel accepted by the family, and they feel that due to expressing themselves in this way, and they may risk their relationship. Thus, a lot of people are influenced to keep it in the closet. Okay? They want to keep it in the closet. Now, I am one that encourages a person. Um, it's up to them as far as how they feel about keeping it in the closet. It's not about me one way or the other. I want you to do what you think is psychologically appropriate for you for this situation. You know, everybody has a time. Some people may not be ready to come out as a teenager. They may want to come out as an adult or whenever they feel they want to get married or whatever else. Everybody has a set time frame, or some may never want to come out. They just basically want to remain anonymous, and that's their business. We must understand in a therapeutic relationship, my job is to guide a client to assist and facilitate that they make the decisions that are best appropriate for them to function in without with having at least non-existent psychological issues in the process or very minimal in the process. Now, I also want to conclude that it didn't in my research, it didn't talk a lot about the reasons that Kirk and Kerrion's mother, who was anonymous, why they broke up. Obviously, they were not married. They were never married. And Kirk had this child very young. I want you to also know this. I mean, Kerrion is 33 years old and Kirk is 51. So he basically was a father at 18 years old. Okay? He had his son very, very early. So I'm assuming that his mother was probably around the same age. I would say 17, 18 years old. They probably around the same age when they conceived him. So he was born to really young parents. Okay. So the beginnings were pretty humble. He was not born into wealth, as people may think. Kirk pretty much became popular. Let's see, I'm at the time when he came out, I was probably like 14. He was in his early 20s. So I'm gonna say Kerrion's first 4 or 5, 6 years of his life, he probably lived an average life or below average at best. And then once Kirk became really very popular, you know, he started making more money and he started living a more, extravagant, affluent lifestyle. Okay, Kirk made millions of dollars for years, tons of hits. Okay, so I would say in his grade school years, he started to see the difference in his dad and his popularity. He started seeing, and I want to also understand, it's not easy. I want you all to understand, it is not easy for a son to have a father that's a superstar. And I talked about this yesterday in D-Derail Life Solutions, because many sons are somewhat are pressured into following in the footsteps of their father. Okay? Many of these guys tend to have issues with living up to the expectations. People talking to them and actually talking about Kirk and want to know this and that can become tiresome. That can cause resentment. Now, Kirk also married another woman, and he had a daughter that was in the phone situation, and they lived with Kirk. So I'm going to say that there could be some level of issues in regards to Kirk showing attention to his son, or they living in a big house, and even though Kirk paying child support, I don't think his son was necessarily day-to-day living, because he's living with his mother in the same way that his other family. There could be some issues with that. Also, I want you to understand that as I read the information about the relationship between Kirk's younger daughter, and Kerrion, the language that was used in some way signify that they don't get along that well. Now, I'm not saying that that's accurate or not, but it kind of talks about the fact that, they are not close. Okay. They don't have necessarily the best of relationships. Now, Kirk and his son have been going to therapy since he was a teenager, on and off. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that Kerrion is gay. Kerrion is LGBT, and it goes against the rules of the church. And also, this is an issue with Kirk and also his mother. Okay, so it goes both sides. So I'm seeing Kerrion trying to live his life, live his truth, and he has issues that everybody's probably trying to throw the Bible at him, throw religion at him. He's not willing to accept that. He's going to be who he is. He's going to live his life, live his truth. And so that is very common. That is very common, not only in the Black community, but common in any community, as far as having religious pressures to force you to operate in a certain way. Okay. Now, they also use the term estranged, and they saying that he was resentful, as if, sounds like to me, again, it goes back to some issues with him not spending a lot of time. That I guess he probably wanted more time. You got to understand, Kirk was on the road a lot. Kirk was performing. Kirk was on TV a lot. Kirk is popular. So he didn't probably get the relationship he felt he should have had. Okay? And we also want to know that the daughter is not Kirk's, and they didn't list her name. Well, her name is Tammy. She had her own daughter. Well, Tammy is Kirk's um, current wife. Her name was Tammy Franklin. She had a daughter prior to Kirk, and Kirk adopted this girl. So I think this has also some issues. The fact that Kirk took on a child that was not his, that belonged to another man. He married the mother. So this was Carrington's stepfather, Kirk. And to me, I think there's some animosity, the fact that Kirk probably gave her a better life. That's the way Kerrion may have viewed it, is that Kirk gave her a better life than his own biological son. What's up, Micah Israel? What's up, Muslim? Okay, so we have to look at the dynamics. This was a blended family in which Kirk married a woman, a single mother of one, adopted this child and made the child legally his, at the same time had an estranged relationship with his own son. And I gotta speak to this bullshit, because see, this is something that is very prevalent in the Black community, where Black men do things like this. There are many instances where I have seen Black men take care of stepkids and other kids better than their own kids, depending on the relationship that they had with the mother, in the most part. Now, in the information I've seen, it never showed that Kirk and the anonymous mother of Kerrion had a strained relationship. But let's be honest. The relationship ended for a reason. So it's not like they were all like, great. Like this was just a wonderful situation. Okay. So this is the things we're looking at. And I really think that Kerrion was in a very compromising position. And I think that there was some difficulty with him living up to his father. I just want to continue to repeat that. Also, they stated that, he graduated from college, but they didn't talk about that. They didn't even talk about what he majored in. They also stated that he worked in with the Revolt Media and TV as a director. So he's worked in the entertainment business. He has a career. He does pursuing things such as music videos and so forth. And I think that we have to look at these things, man. I mean, there's just a lot of unknowns here. Okay. I mean, but they're making note that he was LGBT. They're making note of this. I think that the issue that is underlining is that Kerrion is gay. Okay, Kerrion is LGBT. Kerrion is not living up to the spiritual value system, the spiritual pedestal that Kirk and his mother bestowed upon him. Kirk is living his life. Okay. I mean, Kerrion is living his life. Okay. He's doing what he feels is best for him. And I think that Kirk needs to understand that you cannot control Kerrion. This man is a grown ass man. He is living his life the way he wants to, regardless of if it coincides with your religious ideology. I mean, let's be honest. Kirk had him young. He was a young father. This guy is I really think that Kerrion is resentful that he has an adopted sister that they don't really have a close relationship. Okay, the relationship has been toxic for years. They've been on and out in counseling. They also said that he made a claim that Kirk tried to kill him for whatever that was worth. He claimed that Kirk, and he also said actually he felt the same way, felt threatened. He felt threatened the same day that this phone call surfaced. He felt threatened. He felt like, I guess, Kirk has had a history of cursing them out, calling them names. He also has had a history of basically talking to his father any type of way. So there's basically a position of contentment on both ends. There are a vast amount of communication issues. There's a lack of empathy towards one another, a lack of bonding. Even though Kirk apologized for what he's done, I don't think Kirk is really sorry. Kirk is apologized because he got caught. I think Kirk meant every damn thing that he stated, and that's fine if that's what he believed. I mean, they didn't talk about specifically the issue, but I really do think the issue was because this brother was gay. The brother was gay. And he's living a lifestyle that Kirk doesn't like. This is a toxic relationship. This is a relationship between father and son, where the son is not living up to what he wanted his son to be, or what his father wanted him to be, for the most part. Okay. So it's just a lot of secrets, man. It's just a lot of unknowns, but I'm looking at the pieces of this. They also said that day that Franklin also had a family therapist on the phone to try to help the situation. And he said that the son basically didn't want to talk about the entirety of the phone call because, therapists at this point, we also engage in telephone therapy, which is not, you know, the best form of therapy for the most part. But at this point, because of COVID-19, it's become more of an option just because of for safety reasons. So I've actually done telephone therapy. I don't do a lot of telephone therapy because I actually encourage, because if I can't see you face to face, well, I'm definitely going to have to see you over a digital platform. And I'll see you through a digital platform, and then you can, decide and that's more appropriate for you, or that's, that makes you more comfortable. Okay. So as we have seen, this is to me something that has developed over time. You look at the psychosocial history. These are young parents raising a son. Okay. I know there's a father that is at Kirk level. I think Kirk is looking at his son as being a disappointment from a just religious standpoint, from a, just all together. And I'm like, Kirk, you cannot force your son to be what you want him to be. And I think that Kerrion is tired of hearing people tell him what he should be doing, particularly if you're talking to him as if he's a child and you're being disrespectful. And also in that, Kerrion has been cursing out his father for years. So they've been cursing out each other. So I think the dynamics of the fact that, he didn't marry his mother. He married another woman. Yes. Hold on, guys. Also, the fact that he adopted another woman's child and married her, and that adopted child is probably lived the day-to-day lifestyle of what Kirk Franklin could afford. And even though he probably was paying child support, even though they didn't talk about all of that, because the mother is anonymous for a reason. Okay, she's anonymous for a reason. Now I've seen things in which Kirk's wife spoke on things. I'm curious to hear what Kerrion's mother thinks, because Kerrion's mother has issues with Kerrion, and I think that Kerrion is sick and tired of being in a family where he doesn't fit in, where he doesn't feel accepted, he doesn't feel loved, and I think that that's an issue we have with people who are quote unquote Christian, is that in the time to show love, they want to show more of you trying to live up to scripture. And that position of judging him and telling him what he should be doing is on him and with him and his beliefs. At this point, you can't change what he wants to do in with his life. Kirk has admitted to making mistakes. Kirk has decided that, hey, I apologize for what I did. I didn't mean to go that in, but even though I really don't believe him, I think that he meant every damn thing he stated. And he's not happy with his son. Most fathers wouldn't be. But I also want to preface that the son didn't show the whole. He did not let us listen to the entirety. And I always had an issue with that, because I said, it only showed the part where it made Kirk Franklin look really bad. He didn't talk about the fact that Kirk called the family therapist so that the family therapist can provide some level of mediation between the two to calm them down and get them to a point to talk effectively. Okay? So, yeah, I agree with you, Michael Israel, still love the son but reject the lifestyle. Only problem, they want you to accept the lifestyle. They see it as who they are, I suppose. Yes. And I'm not going to get into all of that today. That's a whole other topic in itself. I think that it is important to understand the overall relationship as it relates to Kirk Franklin, the mother of Kerrion, anonymous, his Tammy, his wife, and his stepdaughter Carrington, and Kerrion. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, in my position as a therapist, all four of these people should be in therapy. I think this was a situation that was limited to Kirk and his son. In my position, if I was to have them in a family therapy situation, I want to hear from his mother, stepmother, father, daughter. I would engage in therapy in a way that would allow them to express themselves freely, to focus on their values, their morals, um, uh, family, you know, rituals, and things that the family does, that understanding aspects of their religion would come into in play. I would look at things from a cognitive standpoint in regard to restructuring illogical thoughts, um, self-defeating behaviors that have led to them having a long-term issue. Because I think that not only Kurt, but everybody is not accepting of Kerrion. Everybody is not accepting of Kerrion. And Kerrion at 33 is like, hell, what can you do? You can't tell Kerrion how to live. Let Kerrion be Kerrion. So what if he doesn't live up to your Bible lifestyle? Hell, Kirk, you didn't live up to your lifestyle either because you was addicted to porn. I mean, let's look at it. You've already had a black eye. You were addicted to porn. I'm not saying porn is the same as being LGBT, but you still was addicted to porn. And some people see that as a perversion. So in family therapy, I'm going to focus on the family themselves laying out their issues with one another. I'm going to focus on the inception of this relationship that starts with um, Kirk and the anonymous mother, how it developed, how things changed, how the early developmental years of Kerrion, how the stepmother came into play, how when Kirk became famous, there could be some resentment from the anonymous mother that Kirk, didn't stay with her, and another woman is living in what she feels should have been her situation. This is facts. This is facts. This is what I would deal with in these situations. Okay. In the initial session, we're gonna focus on just getting out and venting out your issues. We're gonna focus on each person laying out the problems that they have. We're gonna focus on each person listening to each other and not trying to overtalk each other. There has to be a certain decorum. There has to be a certain level of positive interaction. I'm going to not allow finger pointing statements, offensive statements, I'm pretty sure because they curse and yell a lot, they would be cursing and yelling in therapy. I don't have a problem with the swearing, but I don't want direct derogatory statements. Me. I don't want offensive language that would lead to people getting angry and upset. We're going to speak on the truth. And so my style is very non-directive, in which I would allow any and everybody to talk and to give feedback to one another. However, I have to, in some places, intervene to create some level of structure so that the structure of the therapy allows them to be in the right direction and not just going all over the place. Okay? So I see a lot of people are talking about the sexual orientation piece. We're focusing a lot on that. I think that's the whole issue. This is the issue. Now, as a therapist, my job, unless some people, I've only had maybe one or two clients that had issues with their sexuality where they didn't want to practice the same thing. And really, there's no therapy that has a significant showing to be effective in changing your sexuality. You have to do that on your own. Now, I can provide the environment for you to think through the process, whether or not this is something you can commit to or not. But you're not going to change Kerrion's mind. He is comfortable with being gay. And that's it. He's a gay man. This is who he is. Now, I know, guys, this is not a typical show for me. Obviously, the algorithm wasn't really nice to me, because I would have usually, if I had Umar or Lennon or somebody else, or I was doing a celebration, I would have more people here. But this was requested, and I felt that it was important for me to speak on this, and I will continue to speak on various issues in our community, particularly people in the public eye who are going through mental health issues and need help. So I'm going to continue to do similar content like this. I think it's necessary. But I think it is a mistake for us to focus on the outcome of their relationship, which would lead to this phone call. We have to understand that Kerrion said that his life was threatened before. Kirk Franklin seems like a person that can be very aggressive and run his mouth and say whatever. I've never, for you to call your son a BAN, that's a lot. But that's what he did. His son felt like he was being abusive, if I can say lack of a better word. And he's trying to fight for his own way of life. Now, also in therapy, with a particular initial session, we're going to focus on the children themselves, how they get along. There's going to be a lot of animosity. There's going to be a lot of just yelling. First sessions, when it's constructed this manner, can go in a variety of different ways. But it lays the foundation for the future sessions as I set goals collaboratively with the client to obtain goals that they want to achieve. And I think that the number one goal here is that the family learns to get along and communicate better. I think that another goal should be that Kirk Franklin and Kerrion need to develop a stronger father and son relationship. Also, I think there should be things in which Kerrion and his sister and the stepmother, and also the fact that Kerrion's mother interacts effectively. So there's a lot of issues to deal with as it consists of learning to do certain things differently. Okay? And that's just something to make note of. It's just something to make note of. Usually when I'm in therapy with 3 or more people, it can be very long. Typically those sessions last an hour, 15 to 30 minutes. because there's so many people trying to talk and they want to engage. It'll be very difficult in grasping all of the information from everybody. Interruptive situations would occur. It can be frustrating. Now, I've done family therapy with 5 or more people. Not a lot, but I have. But then I've done therapy with 2 or 3 people, which is not difficult at all. So, in conclusion of this, I would encourage Kirk Franklin and his son to get back in therapy, but to also include the whole family into the process. Kerrion's mother, Kerrion's stepmother, and stepsister. Everybody needs to be involved because everybody was greatly affected by the situation that happened. This is not a situation that was created just because a father and son had a disagreement. No, it's deeper than that. These are long-term issues that have never been dealt with consistently. They have went to therapy, and the therapy was not consistent. And so this is symptomatic of what most families go through that are this dysfunctional if they're not consistent with the therapy. It is paramount that if you're going to engage in therapy, if you want to get the full effect of it, you have to be consistent. Whether it's once a week, once every other month, once every month, once every bi-weekly, or every 3 weeks. The consistency over time will yield better gains. What's up, Black Einstein? What's going on? So my goals again is to improve communication. Obviously, and also, guys, we also want to understand that Kerrion has a mental illness. Okay, he has some behavioral, emotional issues that probably led to this. So I don't know the severity of that, but it exists, and it needs to be noted. It needs to be noted. It needs to be understood. It needs to be understood that we're going to have to engage in a very complex situation with people who live very complicated lives. Very complicated lives. And that's for a reason. That is for a reason. And to me, we have to look at the fact that we got to look at also in regards to looking at things in regards, I look at the structural model of family therapy, which focuses on looking at the structure of the family and communication, the system of the family, the system of how the family operates, how everybody is interrelated within the family. Okay? Structural family therapy, which is called SFT, along with cognitive behavioral therapy. You know, there's tons of things that need to be looked at because there's so many dynamics between father, son, father, son, stepmother, son, mother, son's stepsister. I really think that our brother is pissed off that he has a sister who seems to be an adopted sister. I mean, I'm just looking at this from the context in which I have read this. It makes sense to me. It really does. I really think that this brother feels like he's the odd man out and he needs love. We want to look at things from that model. I would look at things from that standpoint. I think that all parties, and I'm just not going to blame this on Kerrion for not being consistent. I think that all parties need to be consistent. There's no way in hell that I'm going to believe that Kirk Franklin was consistent all the time. No. You've been on the road. You got all kind of engagements and stuff going on. You know, that could have been tons of reasons why you didn't commit to going to therapy. I deal with this all the time. And, you know, consistency in therapy and so forth is very important. And some families are difficult in being consistent. That's just the truth. But we have to address these issues. There could be issues between Kerrion's stepmother and his anonymous biological mother. We don't know what Kerrion's mother has been telling him, has been feeding him in regards to how he's been treated, and the fact that she was not married, even though she had a child for him at 18, 19 years old, and Kirk left her to marry another woman. And she already had a child for him. And she could have animosity to the fact that, you mean to tell me I laid down and had a child for you, I wasn't good enough for you to marry, but you marry another woman that has a child that's not for you, and you adopt this child and become her father, and you become a better father to her than you are to your own son that you have a horrible relationship with. I've seen this happen many times. I have viewed and have attempted in many situations to diffuse situations, to coax emotion, to foster a level of positive interaction, and to change the perspective of each one, not as it relates to how you function in the previous relationship of the past, but how we can move forward to have a more collective relationship for the future. This would be difficult, guys. This would be a very, very, very difficult case for any therapist. And it's really not because of the status that they have. It's just the dynamic in itself is very complex. And there's so many people. There's 4 different people with 4 different mindsets of how the reality occurred. What's up, We On Lock? What's up, Tiffany? How y'all doing? Appreciate you all for coming in. So these are the ways in which I would address this. This is the way I would focus on helping them. This is the treatment plan. This is the goals that we would set collectively. We have to understand as a group of people in our community, as Black people, we do have a level of homophobia. I don't think in this situation there's levels of homophobia, but we have to understand that in the fact that we, as a whole, the Black community does not condone homosexuality. But the fact of the matter is that we're going to have to learn to function in our community knowing that this exists, and not to the point where it is detrimental to the functioning of the people who claim to be LGBT. I'm not saying you have to accept anything. I'm not saying that you have to change your value system. What I'm stating is that in the way that you interact with them needs to be more civil, needs to be more understanding. It needs to have a level of of love, if that's your child, and it would be beneficial for you to act accordingly to the needs of the child who is basically having to navigate the fact that they have ascribed to a lifestyle that will be looked down upon by others. Where do you think Kerrion got flack from just his family? I'm pretty sure there were other extended family that looked at him a certain way. I'm pretty sure there were friends and other kids at school, but he had no support. Where was Kerrion's support through these things? Where was his support? If the mother is looking down upon him and the father's looking down, but you're supposed to be Christian, and you claim that no one can judge but God, but the test has been given to you, and you haven't followed what the Bible says. I'm not saying it should be condoned. What I'm saying is that you should learn how to function with the presence of it occurring. Okay? The current, you have to know how to function with the existence of it in your environment. That means is that you're going to be respectful. You can still show love. You can still interact appropriately. You just don't want that type of lifestyle to be seen in your face. And you have a right to say, hey, I'm going to be here for you, but this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not. Okay. You have the right to say, to define that boundary. Now, of course, there are a lot of people who are in the LGBT community who, yes, he is gay, Mox Nix. Kerrion Franklin is gay. Okay? And so what I'm stating is that you have to learn to navigate, to show respect, to still show love to your child. But listen, I don't necessarily want to see that. I'm not going to participate in certain things that you may want. However, and I'm going to stay in line with what my biblical principles are saying, but that is up to Kerrion to carry out those biblical principles, not for you to force him to do it. It's up to him to have the choice whether or not this is the position I want to go. And whatever position he wants to engage in, you have to accept it. It's not about a level of condoning. It's about accepting that this is what this person wants to do. And you can't do a damn thing to change it. And also in the operation of that, the dynamic of your relationship can still function with this position. Michael Israel says, why do they make it such an issue? I don't feel the need to highlight my sex life. It is and should be between me and whoever. Are they big victims in today's society? What I think is that this is a situation where people feel that they're it's about acceptance, but it's also the fact that they want certain rights and so forth, and that they feel like people should treat them a certain way. I'm saying that if you're in that lifestyle, you have the right to live the lifestyle that you want, but you're not going to bully me and barge on my rights just to make you comfortable. There has to be a medium. Okay, there has to be a medium. Muslim says there should be a place for them in the community. Yes, there is places. They have their own things they like to do. The place in the community is for them to be integrated into the community. They don't have to go anywhere different. They have the right to work anywhere they want, to live where they want, party where they want. It's just that do not make it as if we have to, as people who don't engage in that behavior, have to yield to your every demand. We can make each other comfortable without attempt to make each other comfortable without someone feeling uncomfortable. Meaning, in order for me to be comfortable, I don't have to do something to make you upset and mad or feel some type of way. The same thing for you. We both can understand how we're going to function. This is what I'm going to do. I mean, I have the right to say I don't want to go to a gay club. I don't want to go to a gay marriage, you know, as far as their nuptials and so forth, ceremony. But I will congratulate you. I don't have to do things of your lifestyle. You can't force me that. Some of these things are getting out of hand. I'm not going to go into some of the things they're trying to do that I think are outlandish and also dangerous to society as it relates to the bathroom situations and so forth. But I'm not going to get into that today. Michael Grizzle says they have rights. They just want you to accept. I accept the fact that you are what you are, but I don't accept the fact that you're going to embarge on my rights in order for you to have yours. We can both have the same thing without it, kind of creating a gray area between the both, having friction. That's the problem. And I want to encourage people to look at it from this way. Will Locke says too many children are forced into the particular lifestyle, and it sounds demonic to me. That's your perspective. I'm going to respect your perspective. I don't agree with that, but I respect your perspective. You have the right to think that way. You have the right to think that way. And there are those that will not believe, will not agree with you. And again, it's their right to not agree. But also, is my right if I decide to agree. You see, both things can occur simultaneously without one not occurring. And that's the issue. These people continue to push the envelope on a lot of things. They push and they push and they push. And they're pushing to a point where it's making people uncomfortable. They're making people got to guess. And when it comes to a point where in your natural language, you don't know whether or not you should use certain pronouns or not, that's a problem. That is a problem. That is a problem. And I'm just making note of that. So, guys, I'm bringing up the link for anybody that wants to come up. Give me 1 second. The link is there. Hi, Miss Tiff.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Informative. You really did shed a light on this subject that I did not know. I did not know that there was an LGBTQ component. I did not know that he was a young father. I did not know that the young lady who responded was his stepsister. I mean, sister nonetheless. I don't believe in
Yes.
handles like step and half. Your
Yes.
sister's your sister. I did not know that.
Yes.
This is interesting, and I really truly believe that effective communication could make a big difference in the dynamics of their relationships. And that's any relationship,
Right.
effective communication. So if they really did unpack this in a therapeutic setting and peel the layers, I really believe that there's some healing that can be done for this family.
Exactly. As long, and I'm going to say this, the hardest problem, and I hate to say this, is going to be the religious component of this, which is what I think is the underlying issue and the reason why, not just from Kirk, but actually they made a point to show that Kirk's estranged, and this woman wants to be anonymous, and I'm like, it's very difficult to remain anonymous when you have, you know what I'm saying, a superstar, you know, you have a child, but this woman is anonymous, and they the way they wrote it is in a manner in which his mother, Kerrion mother, was actually greatly upset and detested his behavior and his choices. Actually, they made a point to highlight that more than actually Kirk Franklin himself. You know,
Okay, so the question, I have a question.
yes,
When we're discussing homophobia in our community, is homophobia the real word? Because the word phobia means to be scared of. Now, not
exactly,
approving of someone's personal choices or lifestyle versus phobia. Should that
right?
be the word that we use? Because I do believe that there is a homophobic, for lack of a better word, uh, situation in our community, because collectively the Black community does not approve of homosexuality.
Yeah,
Historically, we
yeah. See,
don't. That's just, I'm not trying to come for
yeah,
anybody. You know, whatever you do, whoever you choose to love is your business. I am not coming for them. But what I'm saying is, should we use a different word to define how the
yes,
Black? Okay.
yes, we should. And see, the problem is that they have hijacked this word and made it mean something that basically, from a clinical standpoint, it does not mean. Now, is there presence of homophobia? Yes, but most people are not homophobic. They may not. They may have, just because you're uncomfortable around being around something doesn't make you homophobic. The problem when you deal with people who are homophobic, we have to understand a recurrent psychological standpoint. There are circular emotions and perceptions in which you detest other people when you basically are constantly and repetitively thinking of things as it relates to that behavior and how negative it is and how it gives off a certain negative behavior. That could be out of anger, it could be violence, it could be some type of perverted behavior that you're basically showing towards a person who acts out. Or let's say you discriminate, yell, curse out people who act in this manner. That's homophobia. But when we talk about people that just don't agree and choose not to be around it, or if someone is acting in a way that is somewhat overly dramatic, and you just like, oh my, you just have a natural response of you want to engage in that. That's not homophobia. Most people in this country are not homophobic. Now, people who've caused harm to people that are gay, such as like that guy Matthew Shepard when he got sodomized, and that's homophobic. When you kill somebody, the stuff with broke down Mountain, that was homophobia. The people that killed that man, that's when you inflict some type of harm to others, or you're doing something to hurt them, you're doing something to cause harm and pain or make things difficult for them. Uh, uh, Gay, let's say you are discriminating against someone, that's homophobia. And it's all geared in irrational thought, as Muslim talked about, because phobia itself is irrational. But there is an existence of homophobia. The problem is that most people are not. The overwhelming majority of people are not, but there are, and to be honest with you, there's a healthy percentage of people who are homophobic who are actually homosexual, but they don't want to come out. And that's something that's not talked about a lot. There are a great deal of people who are highly homophobic who are dealing with the issue that they have the same issue and they refuse to come out. Reverend Gerald Palmer is homophobic. He is, to me, a person.
Really?
Yes, he is homophobic. I really think Gerald Palmer. The reason why I say Gerald Palmer is homophobic because he fits all of the criteria when we look at the fact of he has an underlining, unexplained reason from the optics of it to engage in things as if he belongs and has practiced that behavior. But when questioned about it, he constantly denies it and he actually gets upset and he actually gets uncomfortable. If you notice, when people ask Gerald does not easily just say no, quit asking. Gerald gets very uncomfortable when people talk about sexuality. He gets very uncomfortable. I've noticed this from him for 3 years. He gets very uncomfortable. He starts, trying to say, "I got a wife." He'll bring up the fact that he has a wife. I mean, just because you have a wife, why do you feel like you have to bring up why you're not? If you're not homosexual, which I don't care whether you are or not, just simply say no and keep it going. But no, Gerald starts to, Negro splaining and trying to say this and that and this, and people think I'm this because I'm going out of my way. But Gerald has underlying behaviors that to me show that he's gay. Number one, he loves interacting with the very kind of population that he likes, and that's younger black men. He's working at an all black male HIV center part time. That's nothing but black young black men over the age of 18. Okay, I've never heard Gerald give a compliment to a woman. I never heard Gerald say anything. Basically, when it's about his wife, he never speaks of anything about it. I mean, I understand why you want to keep your wife separate, but when his wife is mentioned, he gets very protective about it. He gets very aggressive about it. There's a lot of underlying things that people who are homosexual don't catch. Like one of the primary things that I can see from a person, and I actually learned this in one of my first jobs. I never forget. I had a young teenage girl, black female, about 15 years old. She was very uncomfortable being around other girls when they would talk about how cute other boys were. And kids and adults who are actually that way and try to hide it never openly and naturally show any type of affinity for the opposite sex. I'm saying in a natural conversation, in a joking manner, in a social situation. Okay, they never naturally say like, "Oh, he cute," "Oh, this or that," or a guy say, "Oh man, she," like, or other guys laughing, and they find a joke that's more like gender type joke that's more appropriate that what a man may find funny or a woman may find joke. They don't laugh, they don't engage, they basically feel out of place and quiet. And I have seen this consistently
That
with
that actually makes so much sense now that you're unpacking this, because when you stated that you love your wife's vagina, Gerald Palmer got offended.
yes,
He got angry and he had the audacity to click in on the link to try to hold you accountable for saying how much you love your wife's vagina. I
yes,
remember that.
yes.
I wow, this is the okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because that triggers him the fact that he's in a situation where he feels inadequate. He feels inadequate. You know, he definitely feels inadequate in that situation. You know, now that to me, I'm not going to speak to Gerald in the grave, so it is what it is. But and we've been celebrating, but this is the tendency of people who hide their sexuality. Another thing you have to open when you ask a person, "Are you straight or are you gay?" If they don't give you an initial just just an initial natural no, if it becomes are you trying to explain or why are you asking me this? If it's not an initial yes or no, or like are you gay and you just say no, I'm not gay. Why would you ask me that? If it's anything but that and it's about you being if you are somewhat being feeling offended, or why are you worried about what I like, or why are you concerned with what I do with my, I'm a, whatever, that's an indication that there are some issues. Because no real straight person that naturally loves being this way is going to hesitate to express their sexuality. However, people who pretend or people who are gay do have issues with answering those type of simplified questions. Yeah. So that's the case. And my thing is this: these guys are crazy. To me, that's the issue, and we need to address people who are really homophobic because really, most of the people who are even Lenin tried to do the same thing. Remember, Lenin said, "I'm homophobic." Really, Lenin? Stop it. You went out your way to say that. What and let me say this, what straight man admits that they're homophobic? Can you all name a straight man that said, "Yeah, I'm homophobic. I can't stand." Lenin was like they bullying people, and let's be honest. Just because you're in that lifestyle, don't mean you support the LGBT community. Because there are, matter of fact, I remember I had a white female who was with in a lesbian relationship for 15 years, and she hated the LGBT community. She had children too prior to that, but she hated the L. She didn't like the LGBT community. She didn't like all of the extra stuff that they did. There are gay people that don't like what the LGBT communities do. They don't like as far as them putting this, trying to force people to say stuff, the bullying, the intimidation, the extra, emotionalism that they place when people don't agree with them, and the theatrics and stuff. They don't agree with that. These are people that want to be who they are, and they want people to leave them alone and let them live their lives in peace. Period. But we have this generation of people now that want to say, "I'm this, I'm that, and you can, accept me and do this and do that." You know, and they want to make it be known. And so I do owe that to the fact that we have the fact of how it's been marketed and paraded around, as far as it's been seen in American society, social media, and etc., and also in government, where there's no place for elementary children to be seeing learning stuff about sexuality. I'm sorry. Okay? There's no reason for that. But I'm gonna let if you want to comment, Tiffany, then I'll easy.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Allah. Any question?
Yeah, I just wanted to build a little bit on what you said. A few pointers that's never discussed. For example, when I was actually working physically in a school building, I had a client of mine, a young black male, who identified with that persuasion. And one of the things that I got him to see is if you lead off with what you do in the bedroom, that actually is degrading and demeaning to you. We're saying this is an identity, it's a behavior. If you don't engage in
Exactly.
that behavior, you're not that quote identity. You understand? It's almost like a verb. You have to engage in a certain action. And so when we started breaking that down and discussing that, he realized, like, actually, that's not what I want to lead with. You're a son. He was an artist. He had all these other different skills and things that he would like to formally define himself as, rather than, the behavior of the bedroom, which ironically is people who are straight don't lead off with, hey, I'm straight, because we're not preoccupied with letting people know what we do in the bedroom and then creating friction when someone doesn't agree. You understand? That's the irony I find around this. Like, there's this wholehearted obsession about you're saying your defining characteristic to the world is what I do in the bedroom. Then you want access to children to talk to children about this when we all know the child's brain isn't properly developed, so on and so forth. They're trying to. I saw a video where a Caucasian mom, taught her son what's called the gay BCs. I don't know if you people have ever heard of that. She
Yeah,
went through
I
the
saw that. There's a YouTube channel like that.
Yeah, so you literally at the end of the day you have to recruit around this sort of thing, because even when you look at you know, let's go with the concept of discrimination. Discrimination, nature has its preference in every kingdom of animal. Like, you can't continue to bring forth life engaged in that behavior. You're free to do it, but just the fact that you still need quote straight people to produce more people, there's a difference. So this marching in the street and this obsession saying we're the same, we're not the same. You've acknowledged and identified what you do in the bedroom is such a big deal. You have to tell me about it, and obviously it's different from what I do in the bedroom. You understand? And I'm willing to move on with my life, But you're not. You're harassing me about whether or not I agree, which ironically, if it's about love and you enjoy so much what you do with who you're doing it with, why how I feel about it should factor in at all. You see, so obviously you're not comfortable with what you do there. You need me to collude with you to give you a greater level of peace because deep down, you know there is something bizarre about this. Because if you're truly at peace, for example, with being a vegan, why do you need to run around and force people to quote accept veganism and tell you that they love being vegan? You understand? Like it's
Yeah.
very bizarre. There's a level of
They
narcissism.
need to be honest with you. They want heterosexual validation to make it feel as if those are the same, and it's not.
Yeah.
Most people only. I'm gonna be honest with you. The media does a good job of making things that are make things seem more relevant than what they really are. If you watch TV, you would think that the LGBT population is larger than what it actually is. Because they make a point to throw it in your they make a point to add it into the narrative of any situation. But in reality, it's only a small number of people that engage
Mhm.
in behavior. And it's been like that throughout human history.
5%, I think,
Yeah,
is
less than
the
five, it's like
data. Less than
5% or
five.
less. Now,
But
go ahead.
what I was gonna say for the chat and everyone listening, because as you all well know, man, I'm passionate about natural health and digging into books. Everyone look into the Gay Manifesto when you have time. That was written where they talk about how they're going to recruit your children, sports stars. Everyone must be into this behavior. It's not about this love and acceptance thing. It is a
Right,
very different, aggressive perspective where they are on record. I forgot who wrote it, but if you Google the Gay Manifesto in very clear language, they're talking about listen, we will take over, we will ravish your sons. We want, for the women who who discard these various men, everybody has to come up under us. It's literally a religion, people. We're talking about a behavior that they claim is a community and a lifestyle, which one of the things, like I had a coworker many years ago broke down to me, and this is one of the dirty secrets. You can look this up. They have higher rates of mental illness, higher rates of
right,
DV amongst
right,
themselves. So
right.
keep heterosexual people out of this. You can go into the CDC data and see that even amongst themselves, they struggle to truly form bonds and partnerships at a
Right.
higher clip than the so-called straight people. So even in that, there's not equality. The numbers are greater. It's marketed to us that
A
you
high
would think
level
it's less.
and also a high level of suicidal attempts and behavior, self
Correct.
mutilating behavior. And so this my thing is that when I see people who act like they're happy all the time and they're free, those are some of the most disturbed people about the situation because a lot of these people are putting on facades, and and a lot of them have a high yield to alcoholism and drugs. This
Yes.
this is what the community deals with. This is what that community is made of. It's a lot of dysfunction that appears to be more functional than what it really is.
And the last thing, I got to jump off for a moment. I got to run this store. And the last thing I'll say, which I've always taken a super strong stance against, if you look how disenfranchised the black community is in this country, it's like we should be the last ones to want to somehow hold hands with this quote movement when we have all sorts of our own issues that aren't addressed. And what ultimately ends up happening, when you look at the Floyd situation, the death of black men has been transformed to, quote unquote, Black Lives Matter to Black Trans Lives Matter. The only black male America respects is the black male who's biologically confused,
Right?
who pretends to be a woman, because a black male who's in his right mind and wants to handle his business and speak truth to power, somehow you're a problem. They don't want to deal with you. The death of Floyd, we now have all these spin-off groups, and it wasn't just Floyd, obviously, but this is why, we allowed everyone and we want everyone at the cookout and hold hands with everyone. Meanwhile, we're always the last ones to get our grievances addressed. And for me personally, what I always ask people, when you're a mistreated guest here in America, to be brutalized so much, you have to pause and ask, do you really want equality or a greater stake in such an evil system and people who've brutalized you so much? That's what fascinates me. From my spiritual perspective, I want what the Most High has for me. I want his justice. I do not trust in man. You know, you look at, again, going quickly back to the Floyd situation, this was 90+% black males being snuff films portrayed to America. And then we spin off to that to, oh, we got to protect biologically confused black males and we're going to make a way for them. And the straight black male is last in everything and doesn't have a pot to piss in, and nobody's checking for him.
Right. And so I think that's the thing. We have to quit allowing our community to take the narrative of what other people are trying to push to it. Because this stuff of showing these people, if they want to be used, if these guys that ascribe to these behaviors want to be used, that's fine. But we're not going to. Oh. We're not going to accept that. We don't necessarily have to accept those behaviors. That don't mean that you can't be, civil with them. You can't interact with them. You can't have functional relationships and so forth. But you're just not going to go headlining and go in with just agreeing with everything they're doing and feel like it's a normal part of your life. You have a right to decide that, and you have the right to decide that for your children. Michael Israel says women, teachers, single motherhood are against masculinity and for promoting femininity. Actually, I don't necessarily agree with that. I do think that there is a presence. I don't want to speak in the majority as all women teachers and single, but I do think there's an aspect of them trying to make black boys be a little less masculine. And the thing about it, single mothers are naturally doing that because they don't know no other way. And if they had a presence of a father there, then you wouldn't have to deal with that particular phenomenon. There would automatically be a man there to provide that. So if you can't ask a woman to teach natural masculinity to children, you can't. That's just not how you're built. It's just like you can't ask a man to teach girls how to be feminine. That's a daunting task. That needs to, that's the purpose of women, to do that. So I just want to make note of that. Just want to make a real note of that, as we move farther into things. But I don't want to go too much into the LGBT aspects of it, this situation. But I wanted to highlight the dynamics of this family. Again, it starts with Kirk Franklin, the estranged baby mother. Then he married. Then they had a child, Kerrion. Then he married his wife, Tammy. And then they have the other child, Carrington, which was basically a daughter he adopted. This is the basis of the issue. And Carrington and Kerrion are not really that close for whatever reasons. Matter of fact, Kerrion is not even close to the stepmother. And probably Kerrion's mother and the stepmother don't even communicate. Matter of fact, I doubt seriously if Kerrion's mother and Kirk Franklin are on good terms. They may have an understanding for her to remain anonymous. But that's the case. That's the perspective that I'm looking at. Okay, so that's where I wanted to draw from that. I went in a clinical perspective. I talked about from a therapeutic perspective and using the strategic. The strategic model. I'm sorry, not the strategic model, but the structural model. The structural model of family therapy, along with cognitive behavioral strategies. So Kerrion is gay. Yes, he is gay. And so that is what I would implement in a therapeutic process. That's how I would facilitate the therapy, creating tangible goals that can be obtained from all four of the family members. Because it sounds like to me for years it was just Kirk and his son. Matter of fact, in that engagement, Kirk reached out to the family therapist. Kirk actually reached out to the family therapist, which was not played in its entirety in that particular phone call. So Kerrion purposely edited and wanted people to hear what he wanted them to hear. And he didn't care that he attempted to damage the reputation of Kirk Franklin. So that speaks a lot. That speaks a lot of what Kerrion thinks of his father. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Hey, Oracle. Hi, Miss Oracle. Oracle.
Hey, how you doing? Just getting on.
I'm
Sorry
great.
for the technical difficulty. I was trying to get everything set up.
Sure, no problem.
So I find it very interesting, the conversation that you're having. I'm following some of the story with Kirk Franklin and his son. It's unfortunate. And I wanted to kind of speak to some of the issues that the gay community is struggling with when trying to, stay involved, how they're also trying to address mental health issues. Some don't even know or realize that they're going through certain things. The CDC report does state that they are at higher risk and all of that. So I just kind of wanted to weigh in while y'all were talking.
Sure.
Hey Tiff, how you doing? She there?
Hey, sorry about that. Hey.
I know you're fine. Hey.
Okay.
Hey D Darrell, thanks for having me up.
Good. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can continue.
Okay, and so I wanted to add to the conversation about the health and well-being of any persons that's dealing with, struggling with. This is not a bash session. I'm pretty sure that people know that already, but I just want to state my stance too that I'm also on board with not bashing, but making aware of some things that are starting to show themselves, and I see that everybody's seeing it more in the attack against heterosexuality. I feel like I have to defend my heterosexuality on a basis of, how you say, feeling shame for being straight. And I heard that note in your tone too, D. Darrell, when you were stating how somebody came for you because you're heterosexual and you love your wife in that way. And I feel like it's a punishment to be straight these days in some ways. And I feel like it's discriminatory. It can be discriminatory. And I'm thinking, and I could be wrong on this, that one catalyst or cause to this is that heterosexuals have been stuffed in a closet or stuffed themselves in a closet for so long to where now they're starting to lash out. It used to be, I want my rights. Now they have these rights. They want to go and rub it in our face. And not all homosexuals. I'm just talking to the group that it applies to. So there are certain people that this group, how you say, pointing out of or exacerbating the issue with their own sexuality because they're conflicted, you know. So my thing is that anytime you have a sexual issue that's inward, you're projecting outward, and you're projecting outward in a damaging way will cause people to further distance themselves, not just because of your lifestyle, but just because of how you're treating others that don't align with what you're doing. I have a complete right as a heterosexual female to not engage or how you say, I have a right to my free thought to not think that certain acts are to be acceptable in society due to and in part because I come from a community that is struggling with birth rates, relationship rates in a heterosexual manner. We don't have a lot of heterosexual couples that are being represented in a healthy way. And when they are represented in a very negative light. You can see this on hip hop, anything, VH1's shows, whatever
That
have you,
is so true. Ooh,
you
that is
know?
so true.
Yeah. And so when we do get a chance to try and state our case, Dita is a prime example. You my lovely one is a prime example of what it means to be heterosexual, and we get bashed for that. No, your rights don't begin where my rights end. Our rights are congruent to each other, you know? Now, again, this is not a gay bash. This is how certain gay people will actually bash heterosexuals, and we need to speak up about that. Now, a lot of times it comes from guilt, in my personal opinion and what I observed. You're guilty for something. You're feeling guilty for your sexuality. That's something that you have to work out with a professional. You know, don't project your guilt onto us. Project your guilt onto where it lies. Who made you feel like this? Was it your parents? Was it your loved ones in your family? Was it your church members? Was it your community? Why are you feeling so guilty? Because it comes from a place of self doubt, guilt, not totally accepting, you know, the homophobic part of it. You're not totally accepting of who you are. You know, you're not totally okay with that because some part of your conscience is being attacked for you to even
Mm-hmm.
behave in this manner. So you're lashing out. You're lashing out to others by putting them down for loving who they love. But when they say the same about you in return, you want to come. Excuse me, sorry, I always do that. You want to comfort them. Why are you coming for them when you're coming for them first? Because if I can remember correctly, that Reverend Devil, he came for you first, D. Darrell.
Yes.
You know, and when he came for you first, you a man, you stood 10 toes down, and you're just now addressing it. You gave him what? Time. You gave him what? Patience. You gave him what? Understanding. So no one can dare come back at you and say, oh, you're homophobic because you're calling him out, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. Don't get the two twisted, people. This is not to do with a mishmash or any of that. This is a total separation of a certain group of individuals that happen to be homosexuals that are in denial, that are lashing out because they're feeling guilty, they're ashamed of what they're doing, and they have absolutely no reason to be shamed. They have absolutely no reason to be guilty unless there's something guilty. What's the cause of their guilt? They are married. And who are they married to? Women. Women.
Right.
So now we have one part reason why you're lashing out, but why are you windmilling at the world when you need to take that to a professional in confidence? We wouldn't notice if you didn't share it. How do we notice? Because you shared it. So we're not
Mm-hmm.
attacking you or addressing you about the matter of privacy because you made it public. We would not know these things if you had not made these things public. So now you brought us into your business because you attacked us. And I feel personally insulted anytime somebody comes for somebody's sexuality, especially the sexuality I have a proclivity to. So if I feel like I want to speak out just like you feel like you want to speak out, I have that same right. I'm not going to diminish my rights, in other words, just to protect yours. You
Right.
know, I feel like if I have to do that, then neither one of us have a right. So say you.
I feel you on that. Exactly.
Facts on facts on
Yeah,
facts.
you well said. I really can't add anything else to that because you're talking about it from your position and also from the position that they come from, what you feel. And my thing is that, like I stated, your comfort does not mean that I have to be uncomfortable. Like, because I want to be comfortable in the way I want to function, you can't tell me I can't be comfortable just to make you comfortable. No, it doesn't work like that. You know, you have a right as a heterosexual female to say things that is conducive of what heterosexual females say without thinking you're offending somebody that is not of the same thing. No, it doesn't work like that. That's just not even. It's just not realistic. And
Not
to me,
realistic,
no,
right?
it's not. And then you get mad, and then if somebody don't agree, oh, now you're homophobic. No, that's not what homophobia means.
Um, Darrell, I'm gonna say
Yes,
something that's
sir.
gonna be very controversial because I'm hearing this again about this pastor Kirk Franklin and his son. Is his son another life? Is he gay or something? His son.
Yes.
Okay. So my thing is this. I can't be liberal. I'm gonna be straight up honest. If you're a person that has a sexual confusion, then obviously, and you don't like it because it seems like it's a bothersome, the best thing you could do as a man or woman that's about that life, you go seek actual therapy. I know the pastor could do something to help re-relate, but really true, you have to go spend money and go see an actual therapist that's at least licensed in the profession. And I'll go even further. Did you know yesterday that your profession, you and Miss Topaz profession, was attacked yesterday? Have you
Yes.
noticed it?
Yes.
And it shows the disrespect of this community that we like to wallow in our sickness and don't want no type of correction whatsoever. So
Right.
when we talk about the homosexuality of this community, which I don't advocate, and I tell most people, men and women, that you need to go get some help, because after all, it's going to be a problem down the line, because it's going to lead to some other complications. I don't care if some people say they live a comfortable life. No, you do not. From what the data that's being revealed right now, and you're not going to reveal it on your channel, but I'll say personally, and people could probably go back and look for us if this is valid, that you live a less life in this behavior, period. And not only that, you have a higher chance, if not careful, of suicide, much greater than people that have other issues.
Right.
So when we talk about actual help, you go seek fucking help. That's why when people will try to shame me on my views on it, Dawa Yisrael's views, or any other man that I've been talking about on my podcast for years now, I'm not playing. And the reason why I'm not playing, because as a man, at this point in our development, our stance in this Western America is very much in trouble. We're now saying that you're only going to be looked up at any protection if you're acting a certain way, dressing inappropriate a certain way. That's not how you want to go down as a man. You should be up firm and be on your square, both your image and how you carry yourself, period. All this other craziness that whoever validates you, if you're about that life and will look at you more favor, you're going to have to cut that as a grown adult man once you pass 18 years old. You should always
I'm so
question
glad you said that. Ooh, can you please unpack that some more? That is so good.
And the
The
reason why I say is
maturity part. Mm-hmm.
because you got to understand, society does love and wants uncompromised black males. They will look at you nicely if you acting more feminine, and this is the honest truth. And as a man, you, depending on how you got to this in your stage of life, no, you should find that as insulting. That they do much worse to black men that are what we call straight for years and years. And you have to do something different so you don't get attacked of the world. You are resting in your femininity. And that is no good for you as a man in the 21st century. The only thing you will get in this direction is more misery, more mental complications, and potential suicide if you're not careful. And mind you, they don't mind black men commit suicide in this type of level if they're confused. Because confusion means you're more control. You're easy to be dictated. You're easy to be marginalized. And let's be honest, you're easy to be attacked in other forms. Not just physical, but other forms. So, like I said, if Kirk Franklin's son is about that life, he has a problem, and people are voicing their opinions, especially other YouTube content creators, is a problem. Because as a woman or a man, and let's say a woman is talking about this, that you should not feel comfortable that a man is about this life. Period. You can still be friends if you know them long time, but you should not advocate their disorder around long term.
Right.
And I don't care if you gonna lose friends. As real friends, if people are friends with people that are about that life, you should be honest. You should make their life a little uncomfortable just to know that I'm doing this for the betterment of you. You get me? Because I expect better for you as a man. You get me? No society is gonna respect no uncompromised man. They look at you as females and they're gonna treat you accordingly. You get me? You might be protected in certain situations, but you're not protected long term. Because the consequence long term of this behavior is detrimental. So I'm telling this from one brother, speaking to another brother, get some fucking help. You get me? I never emphasize this, but I'm telling you personally, I've seen it gone too far. And a lot of people are giving too much favorites, and they're pick and choose who's gay, who's not because of certain talking points. I'm telling you, we should not accept that as a community, period. But because we're not right mentally, we're not seeking actual therapy first before anything else. That's why you can have someone like D. Durrell, Topaz, anybody that's in the field, question their accreditations and tell us you don't fucking need it. Yes, you fucking need it. Stop it.
You know that's gonna be. I'm actually gonna review. I'm gonna do a snippet of that video to show what I deal with in the manosphere, so that people in this sector can see the little silliness that I have to deal with when I go to certain.
Yeah, you need to do that. If you need help, I'll snip it for you and send it to you. Just to make it easy.
But Topaz is not even really manosphere like that. But you know what I'm saying. But I'm gonna definitely show so they can see exactly what the manosphere is really like.
Yeah, it's so sad too. Yeah, because the issue which is spoken on, Chaos Reign, hits home so good to the Black community, especially in our Black men. Unfortunately, we have a suicide rate that's astronomical compared to other races, and almost in league with the U.S. government or the U.S. population reportings. Along with that, the rates are normally anywhere from 15 per 100,000. Now they're at 20 per 100,000.
Young people committing suicide now, and this is the same thing with this, and that could also involve homosexuality as well, because trauma affects young men too. So when they say suicide with Black people is either increasing or decreasing, we have to know and to conclude and know this, that the reason why Black people are self-annihilating each other, especially Black males, in a more suicidal way, is because they don't know how to grip reality of their environment, that what they're going through. They don't know how to deal with it properly. Coping is not enough. Some people say
it's not enough.
It's never going to be enough, because let's be honest, when people commit suicide and it starts to twinkle from 20% and rise to close to 30, I look at it. Once it hits 35%, we have a problem. Because now
actually, we're hitting that number. We're at 20 per 100,000 per capita. This is by the suicide prevention. So if you want to be interested in that, just look on the suicide prevention website, and it will give you how the rates are going. Unfortunately, this age group is 45 to, let me look on here again. It's age groups from, so we're losing around 17 per 100 capita between the ages of 35 to 44. We're losing at 20. You got 20 on top of that for this sector at 45 to 54. And it decreased slightly after that, and then it kind of goes up a little bit. But
I know one person committed suicide. I know one person in this sector committed suicide.
Yeah, and some of that is related.
It was not related to that, but it was something else that he just, he couldn't take it no more. So right there, that's the data and statistics array that some people, they don't have to be gay. It could be other means of suicide. But like I said, if it's jumping from the 20% and it slowly keep climbing every year, every decade, is a problem. Like I said, once
that age group, yes.
Once you touch around 35% across the board, then that's something that we as community, we gotta focus on. This is something else, because you don't want.
Yeah, we need to focus on it now, because we're actually getting ready to exceed the United States population as to suicide rates. It used to be young white men. Now it's flipped. It's middle-aged Black men that are committing the most suicide.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
and if it's middle-aged Black men, that's where most men, if they're around after 35, is where they take a peak in so-called earning potential on the average. So if they clock out by then that's no use to any person, because.
So would you say failed relationships by this time, a lot of debt accumulation, loss of job or income, homosexuality issues, dealing with their sexual proclivity issues, just all around just not getting along with anybody, or depression issues, just to start before you actually go into the major mental health?
A host of different things depending on the situation.
We need to value mental health in our community. It was so many times, you guys know, if you agree, I hope you guys agree with what I'm about to say, is that when people display mental health issues or issues that definitely need to be worked out in therapy, they just go to the church or to the mosque. And that's no help at all. And that's no disrespect to the church or the mosque, but we need real trained professionals that can help address some of these issues that are in our community. Because half of these jackleg ass preachers barely graduated high school, if they did that, and they bootleg ass wife, don't have no type of training how to deal with mental health issues. They are just there passing a collection plate and they have charisma, and that is not a qualification to really deal with deep-seated issues in our community. And that's just my opinion.
That is the
Yeah,
truth.
you hit the head on the nail right
And
there.
I gotta step down, D-Rail. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right, brother. I talk about that all the time. People need to know their lane and stay in it. What's up? Let's go with brother speaking, then Shakam Ra.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good.
Just fine. Hello.
Okay. Okay, y'all can hear me okay?
Yeah, you good, brother.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to really talk about it from the gay issue. I was just talking about it more from the family issue.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Whatever way you want to spin it.
Yeah, because I mean, everybody has said what I would say on that issue. It's just sad to me that they have this distant relationship, and that comes from, you know, when two people didn't work out, and I don't know if it seemed like it's not civil from what I said, because if the son is acting like this and trying to record his dad, making him look bad, so clearly they didn't have a civil relationship. Because I know when my mom and dad broke up, it wasn't very civil. I mean, I don't want to go into it, but the point of it was never civil, and at times it was volatile, because I remember my dad didn't even want to come in the house. If my dad was coming to pick me up, it was he stay outside and I come in. But the thing is, my mother always made sure that, you know, even though he hated her, you know, she had feelings about him, they always made sure that me and him talked and, you know, had contact. So I didn't have this animosity towards my father until like toward the end, when, you know, when I found out on my own, he was kind of crazy, and there was just, he had some issues.
Right.
But it just seemed to me from this situation, from what I gathered, is that I don't think they were ever civil. And I think even Kurt, and I guess his mother wasn't civil either. Maybe because, you know, he was trying to build up his music career, and
right. Because this is the perception I got. Because my thing is that, but look at this, Brother Speed. Did you know the fact that he adopted her daughter?
He adopted the woman he married, or
yes, she was a single mother, and he adopted her daughter when he came into that money for the New Nation and Kirk Franklin and the family. When he became hot, you know, and he went with her, he actually adopted. That's legally his daughter. So imagine how that makes a son feel that you better see your dad, or you not living the lifestyle, and he didn't wipe up a woman. Then you know the alarm. That's what the dynamics that I was looking at as I looked at everything in its totality. You know, the fact that he didn't marry your mama, even though he had you. You wasn't good enough. Your mother wasn't good enough to marry, even though she had your son. But you gonna go marry another woman that had a child that's not even his, and he adopt her, and they living nice in Dallas, Texas. You know what I'm saying? And you know, so that any child would feel some kind of way about that dynamic. At least, you know what I'm saying? Just looking at it from afar, you would be like, wow, that was different.
yeah, and I could about imagine between him and the baby mama, there's this like I said, this it's not civil. So you could about imagine with the child, it's the same way. I guess if you could compare it to 50 Cent and his son, they're not civil. I mean, he's bad mouthing 50,
Right.
because the mother and him are not civil, and they went back and forth, and so it just seemed like it's not civil. And he's trying to do everything he can to bring his father down, and it's just sad because never mind the gay part, because that adds a whole new dynamic to it, but it's just the fact that they're not civil. And it just seemed to me that there was, at least if there was supposed to be this family therapy thing,
Right.
at least Kirk was trying. He was trying.
He did try. I'll give him credit for that. He did try, but there's just. But I also want you to understand, in that process, Kerrion's mother was more adamant about not accepting his behavior than Kirk was.
Okay, for the homosexuality part.
Yes. So that was Kerrion had problems with his mama and his dad.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
it's all the way around. That's what I was trying to note. This brother had issues all the way around.
Wow, and that's sad, man. And it's sad that we go back to the fact that we always try to tend to say that these mothers were these great mothers, but we tend to find out now that some weren't the great mothers in the world. You even heard that with Tina Turner. Her mother didn't even treat her kindly. So this is where these problems are coming in also. And it's sad. It's like this guy has there's no ally, no nothing. And, he just want to take it out on, and I guess he's blaming Kirk for that. And which is, I'm sorry, that's the wrong person. He's partially to blame, but partially, his mother is partially to blame, because it's like, dude, he's gay. We just got to,
Kirk did some stuff, Kirk wasn't there, man. Like,
no.
Now Kirk tried to give him help. I got to give Kirk that, because Kirk tried to make they were inconsistent in therapy. But Kirk was on the road a lot. Kirk was doing concerts, producing. You remember how hot Kirk Franklin was in the 90s and early 2000s?
Yeah.
Kirk was making millions. Kirk was like a pop star damn near, He danced. Remember the flack he got for dancing? And the women was shaking their ass in the gospel songs and shit, turning flips and all that. Kirk was out there, and the thing about it is, Kirk was living that lifestyle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so imagine you the son of Kirk Franklin, and you don't see the benefits, and he got another child that he adopted, and she reaping all the benefits.
Yeah, he got a whole new family, and you just out in the cold. But part of the issue is, your part of the issue is it's on your side. He's probably trying to blame it on one side, but you have to look at both sides, and that's where we don't really. When we talk about these broken homes, we always tend to either look at the father being not there, or we look at the mother being this terrible mother, but we don't look at both sides of the situation and just be like, look, it's both sides are not honest about what's going on. And while both sides are not being honest and want to blame each other, the child suffers. Now he has this. Now he's of that persuasion, and who knows? Maybe the fact that there's this disagreement, this turmoil, and the fact that his father not there, that could be part of the reason why he went the way he did. So no, it could be a rebellion against his religion. Because, Kirk Franklin is with
remember,
God.
Kirk was seen as kind of suspect before too. That was a little rumbling about him being somewhat, suspicious.
Oh
Yeah.
Kirk Franklin had a history of being addicted to pornography.
Exactly.
I thought he was a pussy hound. Was he out there dabbling in both? I thought he was just a hoe, like most
he is
church people.
heavily
Well, I'm gonna
engaging in watching pornography.
They couldn't verify that, but people were kind of suspicious. I don't know where it came from, but people had their little thoughts about it.
Well, because
most choir directors are. So I mean,
yeah, and how he looked, you already kind of suspect, but he did admit he had a addiction to porn.
Yes, he did.
So, and that can cause a lot.
And he said,
I know from personal experience that can cause a lot of problems in a relationship.
Right. So what's up, Shakim?
Hey, peace of the gods.
What's up, the GOAT? Shakim the GOAT.
Hey.
Hey, man, we had a good time the other day. We got to do it again soon, bro.
Right.
I just, from my perspective, I'm gonna give a little personal story. So, like, I've had issues with my dad, like, my whole life. We're good now, but there was a time where I was like, my dad put hands on me, right? So what I'm getting from it, he was saying,
as an adult or as a kid?
Both.
Oh, wow.
So in this case, we're talking about somebody whose father is still threatening to put hands on them to this day,
right?
As a grown-ass man. So that lets me know when he said that he stopped going to therapy because of battery, that made perfect sense in my mind, because I was like, if you go back 14 years ago, he would have probably been a little young. So we're talking about abuse at this point, because now it's not like, oh, I'm not going to therapy because I just don't want to. It's like, if I'm going to therapy to work out a relationship with you as my father, and I'm seeing your behavior is still abusive to me, even as an adult man, that lets me know the situation is not up to the son. It's not up to the son at that point, because the son has to fall back, and it's the father's job to keep the peace and to reach out and to continue to repair that bond that's been broken. Because once you put your hands on your son, as a child, he has to deal with that. And then he has to deal with it again as an adult. So I don't really think this has anything to do with homosexuality. I mean, that could be part of it, but I really don't think that's relevant, because in the church, I mean, damn near everybody's fucking everybody. So I think that this is a deeper issue where Black men have a problem properly fathering their sons. And from the older generations, like, the way that they treated their sons, like, it's kind of fucked up. Like, it's just really horrible that even as an adult, you can still be abused by your father. So I think that that's something.
Yeah, he did mention that he felt like that he threatened that he almost tried to kill him in the article. There was a mention of him threatening his life and doing something physically to him that he felt his life was threatened. And he felt like the same thing occurred in March of this year. So it's obvious Kirk Franklin has an anger issue and has done things potentially to his son. That's obvious.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, I can look at it, dude, and tell a lot, because I've kind of been through the same thing. But my dad, he's a lot more calm now. Now, if he was still like, you know, doing that kind of stuff, talking to me like that, then it would just trigger me. It would trigger me. And even to this day, I still have like PTSD a little bit, not official diagnosis, but anybody that's been abused by their father to that degree, it, as a child and as a man, he not only does he have to go to therapy for the childhood, he has to go to therapy now. And now with all this attention on it, you know, that's more therapy. So it's like when people like Kirk Franklin are allowed to have a platform and a voice, and instead of like using their message and taking care of family first, he's out on the road touring, you know, dancing around, shaking for Jesus. And you got a broken family and an abused son. And it's just sick to me how so many Black people are talking about they're not going to delete Kirk Franklin songs. I mean, shit, y'all cancel R. Kelly for less. All right, because that man, actually, that's R. Kelly didn't abuse his own children. Now, Kirk Franklin, not only is he supposed to be a leader, he's supposed to be an example, a pastor, somebody that's supposed to be an example of the moral fiber of the
But
whole.
Shakim, you can't compare a Kirk Franklin to a R. Kelly who is a habitual pedophile.
Yeah,
That's not less
I
to me.
agree.
Socking your kid out, or I mean, physical abuse is not right. My mama slapped the shit out of me not even a few months ago because let her tell it I have a smart mouth. I don't know where she get it from, but whatever. But my point is that you cannot compare that to a person who has perpetuated child rape on Black children, Black girls, and saying that that's less than what Kirk Franklin did. I respectfully disagree with you there.
No, I didn't say that they're equal. I'm just saying that people have canceled people for less. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, because what we're saying, what I'm looking at it when you stated was
I
that
agree.
the fact that they let R. Kelly get away
Is
with
my thing working?
they let R. Kelly get away with a whole bunch of shit before they canceled him. And they
and R. Kelly's not a pastor. He's not a pastor. He's not pretending to be holier than thou.
Yeah.
We know R. Kelly's a freak. So
He's not only a freak. He harmed the people that he was with. He traumatized those girls. Those girls were under 18. They were not adults. They were children. He traumatized those girls, and they'll as a result will have PTSD from his abuse. So I don't agree that
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing.
It can be, that they can be compared as being the same, but I know what you're talking about, Shakim, but yeah.
Just the abuse. I'm just talking about that. Because he has been abused since he was a child, and he's still abusing his son that's an adult. So for me, sexual abuse, yes, that's a little more extreme. But I just know this. I still wake up and have dreams like about my dad doing stuff to me, not in a sexual way, but just all the violence and stuff. So I'm just saying, this is what he's doing to his own son.
Right.
Now, Kelly did that to strangers. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that R. Kelly is not a pastor. When you're a pastor, you're supposed to be held to a different standard than anybody. You're supposed to be held to the highest standard, actually. So I don't see anybody canceling Kirk Franklin. I don't see anybody saying, oh, let's remove Kirk Franklin off of Apple Music. I don't see any outrage. All I see is people saying, oh, well, his son shouldn't have put him on blast, and his son isn't going to therapy. They're basically, he's grown now, blah, 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 but it's an ongoing situation, and he's supposed to be a pastor. Where's the
Shakim, I hear you. And let me explain to you, in my opinion, why he's not being canceled. Because the Black church has a interesting, intricate way how we deal with victimization in the community. And please note that 85% of Black people identify as being Christian. So we have an interesting way on how we deal with victimology and, victims. We're taught, and they're taught and conditioned from the womb, from birth, that if somebody perpetuate any type of filth or any type of abuse on you, it's your job to forgive them, or else you're going to be threatened to hell. Point and take, Kirk Franklin. Point and take. What's the name of the pastor who was molesting those boys but never got canceled? Eddie Long. He was in his
Eddie
he was
Longstreth.
damn near dead, and people still rocked with him. Then you have a vast majority of these churches
Bishop
that are
Eddie
straight
Longstreth.
up pimping black people out of their money every month, and everybody turns a blind eye. A pastor is literally like Trump. He could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and won't shit happen to him because of the conditioning of forgiveness. And that's what made us better slaves. That's why Christianity was one of the biggest damn lies ever sold to us, to keep us in chains for longer, because it conditioned us to forgive the person who was beating the shit out of us on Monday and pray for them on Sunday.
Yeah, can I give you a real quick example of how powerful this church is? My mother was willing to take a payday loan just to pay the
tithes.
No, not the tithe. The pastor has an anniversary. You're supposed to pay a certain amount.
Oh shit! Are you serious?
That's tithes.
I am serious.
I've heard of people doing that too. I heard of that too.
Yep, mine was $500 a year,
gift.
and it went up to $1,000. Yep, once a year, a member got to pay for the pastor's anniversary, and they have a whole name. Some churches post the people who paid and post the people who didn't.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
My mother was going to take a payday loan for that. I said, Mom, you're not going to take a payday loan to pay this pastor. You're not going to do it. I'm not going to sit here and allow you to do it.
For teaching.
That's how powerful this church is, and that's why a lot of these pastors have never been canceled. I mean, Kirk Franklin, Jamal Bryant, who's a perpetual cheater, he's never been canceled.
Can I just interrupt real quick? What actually? I lost a little bit of the first part. What actually did? Someone will sum it up real quick. What actually did happen with Kirk Franklin and his son? Did he commit suicide or what?
Hello? Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Now, he wanted to know what
can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Am I low or something? Okay.
No, you good.
All right. So what happened with Kirk Franklin exactly? So someone sum it up real quick and his son.
Okay. So basically what happened, Kirk Franklin's son had an argument with him a couple of days ago or what have you. And the argument was Kirk Franklin being very verbally abusive to him. And at the same time of that discussion, his son was cursing him out. And, he was calling his son all kind of bitch ass niggas and this and that. And he was cursing his son out.
Right.
And so his son took a snippet of it and played about 40, maybe a minute of it to the world on social media. And then everybody was getting down on
Hello?
led to that because him and his son have had an ongoing toxic relationship that spanned from his childhood, in which they had all types of issues. He said his father was verbally abusive. His father actually threatened his life and so forth, and tried to hurt him and so forth. So there's a lot of things that happened, and I tried to explain the family dynamic that they had, in which they were in therapy. Kirk tried to give him help. He's a part of Kirk actually didn't marry his mother and things like that. Kirk actually married another lady and adopted her child and things like that may have led to them having these ongoing issues. Also, the fact that
where did the gay part come from?
Yeah, the son also had issues because of sexuality issues that they didn't approve of, particularly with his mom and Kirk, about him being openly gay. So,
and how old is he?
He's 33.
He's 33, posting videos about him getting in a fight with his dad.
Yes,
that part.
And that was the.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like a 15-year-old.
No. He's 33, and see that was the backlash.
This is a whole man. Oh my god.
Yeah, see that was the backlash because people were looking at his age. But to me, I understand how old he is, and people can say that. I don't think he handled it the best. But I'm looking at the totality of their relationship and the ongoing issues in which this guy has mental health issues, his son,
Right.
He's dealing with sexuality issues. The fact that he's had issues with his mom and dad. There's a lot of things that have led to that. I'm not saying he handled it the best way, but what I'm saying is that I understand the ongoing issues could have been a breaking point for him. You know,
Right.
because when I looked at it from the surface, I thought the same thing. You know, this guy, 33 years old. Why the hell is he doing this to his own dad? But then when I see the context of the whole situation, there's way more than meets the eye. I mean, it's far more than just that. You know.
That's
Right.
why I got from here, because I was like, my dad has put hands on me, and I'm 25, so I'm telling you, like, if you are in a situation with, just because you're a man, it doesn't mean that you cannot be abused by another man, even if he's your father. And in this case, we're talking about a powerful man, a man with resources, a man with that's considered a pastor that the Black community is going to side with and has been siding with. So it's like, I'm glad that he actually did this, because I might do a video about it. I don't know, but I just feel like men have to stop being afraid to say that they're being abused, because abuse comes in many forms. There's psychological abuse, there's verbal abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's physical abuse. So just because you're a man, it doesn't mean that you're immune. And I think that it's great that he's speaking up. It probably took him a long time. It probably took him 33 years to finally say, look, I'm going to speak about it. And I think that, again, we're talking about a pastor. We're talking about somebody that's 50 with a porn addiction that's still threatening to whoop their own son's ass. Where's the outrage? Where is it?
Can I just expound on that?
Let's see him go.
Really spoken less. I'm
go
sorry.
Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to be real quick, and I'll mute myself. But I just want to expound on a little bit of what I came in when Oracle was speaking, and I agree completely with what Oracle, what you were saying. So Oracle, I believe, and my views are really twisted. They're unpopular. They're not trendy, and I kind of keep them to myself. But my views are right in line with what the Oracle was saying. So
did you get the part where I said that a lot of times it's not about the person's sexuality, it's about their projection? Because that's the part I was trying to drive home the most.
Yeah. So so for one thing, I do believe that one person's sexuality does come from childhood trauma. Like for me, for instance, I was molested when I was a child. So I believe that had a direct result on what led me down a particular path, a particular lifestyle that I chose. Mind you, I did choose that, because these are acts that we're talking about, okay? We're talking about acts that's a choice that you have to deal with. There is, you don't have to choose that path. There is choices that you can make that are opposite of that. The world, the society that we live in is pushing this agenda on people, onto our society, onto our community, and that doesn't make it right. So for instance, my family growing up were very Christian, very religious. They spoke out against homosexuality. My father had a conversation with me around the age of 16 that going over that there would be some consequences, drawbacks later in life if I chose this lifestyle. He was spot on and he was right. And till this day, I agree with him, because one thing is you're going against the natural order in terms of how the world works. It doesn't, homosexuality essentially means death. That's a
conversation. Yeah, that's a conversation in and of itself, but I don't believe that I have to respectfully disagree with what's guided here on today. I think it's more or less the attack that heterosexuals are receiving from certain sectors of the homosexual community. So that's just to say that if you're a Korean, then if you come into my restaurant and I only want to serve Japanese people, then if a Black person comes in there, then I'm going to discriminate against them. But they have every right to be in there and every right to be Black, just like that Japanese person, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like We with homosexuality, you accepting yourself and the community accepting of you and your difference and your freedom of choice.
Right,
But
right,
don't
right.
discriminate
I
against me
don't. Yeah,
because I'm heterosexual. It's more or less what we were speaking to on today. I don't think you
right.
fall in that group, but there is a
Don't.
certain sector
Yeah.
that does.
All right, let me just respond to that. So I agree with you as well. I'm not saying that that should be imposed on people, like that the way I choose or my perspective should be imposed on someone else's, because that we do have freedom of choice. How you live your life is how you live your life, and what works for you, what is what works
Exactly.
for you. What I'm saying is that I saw that there were consequences and there was drawbacks and there was penalties with living that lifestyle. It is death. It is not fruitful. If I continued down that path, I was going to be alone and die alone. I would not have any children. Thankfully, God blessed me with a child, so I'm not alone. I don't have to be alone because I decided not to go down that path. Nor do I expose my daughter to any weird shit like that.
So
But the thing is
have
that
you
hold
sought
on, let me finish. I'm sorry.
therapy? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. I just want to get this in. I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself. But
Go
one
ahead, brother.
thing is,
Take your
I've
time.
never been the type of person to go to gay pride, any type of light, any type of those things where it's thrown in your face. My thing is, it's thrown in your face. It's like our society throws it in your face. You don't have to show everyone that you're proud and have these big, huge festivals. And it's thrown in people's face now. It doesn't have to. Just keep it in your activities in your bedroom. We
But
don't all have
okay,
to know
the
about it.
reason why it's so much in your face is because it's been suppressed. Just like black knowledge itself. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get the books that I can get now. But now
Yeah.
there's the information is coming at a faster rate because of suppression. So whenever we suppress something, it doesn't make it go away. It just makes it come back stronger. So I don't really think that it's necessarily being forced on people, but I think for so long, people have allowed people to have to live their lives in the closet or have to live their lives away from the public eye. And when you do that to somebody, or you do that to a community of people, I should say, whether
Yeah.
it applies to Black people, it applies
Mhm.
to
Yeah, because it's just
Jewish
not
people.
fair.
Yeah,
Either way, whether you're straight or gay, it's not fair to have to
I agree.
suffer in silence or suffer in the closet. And I accept you as long as you accept you, I accept you. Either way, I don't care on the basis of you have to live your life. You have to be okay with you. And I have to be mature enough to accept who you are as an individual,
That's
not
all.
because of whatever
Yeah.
it is that you're doing in your bedroom or
That
any of that, because
that's
that's not
all.
my business,
Right,
right?
that's all well
Hmm.
and good, and I agree with you with that. But we also have to have that conversation with people, and when they're in a particular age and growing up, before they get out and become an adult, before they go out and become a man or a woman, that we have to have an
Exactly.
uncomfortable conversation of the drawbacks, the negative part that comes with going down that path, choosing that lifestyle. We have to have that conversation, be open
So,
about it, and
so,
just because it's
mhm,
not trendy or the society is disapproves of you speaking out against it,
mhm,
doesn't mean that we still don't need to have that conversation
right.
when we're talking about child rearing. So
So, do you think we're coming to a decade or a generation of parents that are going to actually be more open with sexual talks? Because
absolutely.
we came up. I'm not sure how old or younger you are in this highlight in this site, if you will. Do you come from a stage where your parents did not talk about sex?
Well, yeah, my parents are from an older generation. Yeah, I mean, my
Okay, so
parents are in their early 70s. So
you're in your 20s, right?
no, I'm in my early 30s.
Okay. So maybe it's the 20-year-olds. I don't know, but I feel like what you're saying that it's going
Yeah,
to come a time that parents are going to start being more open with talking about sex while the kids are early. Because see, they in school they actually teach you certain things that
right.
you can't go home and talk about, you
Hmm.
know, and this is their signature letting you go into that classroom learning about this subject matter, but you can't continue the subject matter in a black community at home. And I'm almost certain Susie's mom and dad sit their ass down and got them straight. Cause why? Either they got birth control pill, they got abortions, and they made it all the way through college without any incidents or any known incidents. You see what I'm saying? But you
Right.
get Miss Jamaica over here. She's got what, 2 kids before she even graduates high school. You know,
Yeah.
Well,
it's
you
like,
know
okay,
what?
what's the breakdown here?
The breakdown, I'm telling you, and y'all may agree or disagree, but we have to address, and Stephen made such an excellent point, which ties into what Oracle said, which ties into what Shakim Ra said, as well as the other gentleman on the panel. The Black church is the culprit. And I'm not talking about specifically the church, I'm talking about the mosque as well. That's the culprit. They have conditioned us that sex is bad, that we can't talk about it. It's just, we need to address that because of
That's a good point.
the way that they come and teach us how to behave in our community. We're not allowed to hold any of these clergy people accountable. They have free reign to pimp and take and leech off our money. And the women and the men and homosexual, it's all tied into the social conditioning from the church and the mosque.
And why is
I have
every
to-
choir director gay?
I don't
Why
know.
is that?
That is crazy, right? But
Because
I have to concede to what Miss Tiffany just said, because I am a parent of a gay child, and when he came out to me, I was totally acceptable of his lifestyle. I allowed his lover to come and be with him. I didn't close the doors, but where we bumped head was his father. His father, God rest his soul, is no longer with us. He just recently
Sorry to hear
passed
that.
off. So, but anyway,
I'm sorry.
thank
My
you.
condolences.
Yeah, thank you so much. But well, anyway, his father, it was the total opposite, because we come from 2 religious backgrounds. Isn't that crazy? How do you make it with somebody? You come from a traditional Baptist background, and he comes from a Jehovah's Witness background. So, unfortunately, because of his specific religious beliefs, he was not in condonance of that. He would not accept
his side, the JW. They operate as if they're a cult. So they cut people off for less reasons than that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Shakim, you have experience with being JW, so I mean, you know about how they cut the cultish type of stuff that they do.
Yeah, and I just want to say, somebody asked a really good point. Why it's like every choir director, pastor, gay. I'll say this. So I study psychology, and I learned that when you suppress something, it comes back every time. Like even if you were talking about a virus, like let's say you have COVID, and they give you something to suppress the virus, and it works. As soon as you stop taking the medication to suppress the virus, it comes back and it mutates. So just applying that to the church, since we're talking about the church, this whole attitude about homosexuality, like even in my religion growing up, just all the hatred and all, being so far against it and suppressing it and telling people that they cannot do this, that it's against God's morals, that they'll suffer for it. That's actually what creates it, because then you have to rebel against the suppression. And then there's another part of you that's not suppressed. There's 2 different parts of your mind. There's your active mind, and then there's your passive mind. So
you're conflicted
with anything in life. It's just like if you suppress your emotions, right? If you have an anger problem, and instead of you dealing with the fact that you might get a little pissed off or getting therapy, you just suppress it and pop a pill every day, pop a Percocet. Eventually, your anger issues are going to come out. They're going to come out. So the church is actually creating homosexuality, but they don't realize it, or maybe they do, because we could have a whole nother conversation about the Pope and the Vatican and all of that.
Yes.
No, that's another.
Yes.
We know that even Jehovah's Witnesses just joined a organization where they had to admit that they cover up child abuse and they have to pay the victims. And it's a pattern across all religions,
right?
Catholic, Christian, whatever, cult, that they will pass around pedophiles or pastors and turn a blind eye. So not only is it just about the molestation, that's one side of it psychologically, but I look at psychology, because really when we're talking about sexuality, we're talking about mentality and psychology. So when you have the mentality that you can only be one thing, and you limit somebody to that one concept for their entire life, and anything outside of that is off limits, then you create, through suppression, you create a desire for somebody to break free of that suppression. So that's just how I see the church. I see the church as responsible for the very thing that they claim to be against.
So
That is such a
basically,
good point.
But
Excellent point.
Shakim,
Yeah.
would you not agree that it's also in the manner, it's the approach, the way they approach homosexuality or sexuality in general within the church? Now that is coming from the space of condemning someone, which that in itself is what Christianity is against, like that Jesus came not to condemn but to to free the world. So that stands against Christianity, right? So if we come from a loving space and speak to, like, if we speak to someone that is a teenager and is coming of age, that what path, what the negative side effects, what are the consequences of choosing that path are, and just let them know and make the decision for themselves. I don't see anything wrong with that. It's all the way. It's how you address it, how you present it. You don't have to be do it in a hateful way. You can do it in a loving way, and just let like my father did me. Just let them know of what lies ahead.
Yeah, like I said, anytime you suppress a virus, it comes back. So,
But do you think that even having that conversation about what lies ahead, like the consequences that come with choosing that lifestyle is wrong, or choosing any type of immoral lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, when you say consequences, like, what do you mean?
Consequences, like you have higher chances of suicide. You have higher chances of getting based on your sexual practices. You generally have a higher rate of contracting an STD or HIV, or and also you also have creating death, which means that you are not being fruitful. You will not have children. You will die alone. Those are consequences.
Okay, well, okay, I'm a little more on the spiritual side of stuff. So, like, I don't look at it kind of like creating death. I don't even believe death is real. But if you are on that level in a religion, then yeah. As far as the consequences, I think that when it comes to like disease or STD, I think anybody that's sexually active needs to be told about that, whether they're gay or not. I don't think people that are gay should be told you're going to get an STD, or because actually, bro, you can get an STD from anybody. You get an STD.
Yeah, not because of, I agree with you, Shakim, not because of, but just anybody that's having sex. So that's so true.
That's true. But if we're gonna be honest, let's be honest and keep all the take all the dirty laundry out. There's something that's being held back here that people are not being honest about. The gay lifestyle, they are hugely immoral. They do have sex at a higher rate.
I think it's individual.
Strangers.
Because we have a host of
heterosexuals
that are extremely amoral.
But it's at a higher rate.
You know,
I've seen it. I've seen it, Oracle. I've witnessed it. So I'm not making it up.
The highest population for HIV is actually straight people.
It's black women.
Talking about numbers.
The highest is black women.
So
I saw the CDC report. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Most people that have HIV are actually in Africa. There's like 28 million people.
Yes, thank you. Some ignorant ass person that lurks around in our same sector said that. They said some ignorant statement, LGBTQ HIV, and I addressed that to them, but they denied that. So thank you for saying that. I hope they're listening.
That's horrible.
It's just bacteria and virus. It's no different from a cold or flu.
You don't have to be gay to catch HIV. Who said
that?
Thank you. I said the same thing, and someone said that, and
don't
I said you can have jokes about how long the acronym is, but that is something that affects the Black community, African community, like the continent of Africa. You know, we have to be cognizant of that, and not just. And the person actually didn't even realize that it's something that affects the African continent, our motherland. So.
Yeah.
which was crazy to me. Like people are so ignorant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
the
think we need.
African American female that's number one on the newest HIV rates, and is excelling at astronomical numbers. We're outnumbering a host of all age groups, all races, all demographics. So, in other words, this does not have a discriminatory factor for
Yeah.
the Black female, whether she's a PhD awarded or she's a dropout from grade school. It doesn't matter. It's hitting us the hardest. So for somebody to say something like that is very, very homophobic in my personal point of view. Should not be allowed to be heard or said. I just don't agree with that type of rhetoric because I
Yeah.
have a son that is gay, and I would kill for him if somebody came for his life.
Well, it's not
You
being
know,
honest. You're saying you're pointing the finger at a group
yeah,
of
you're
people
making
that
you're
you're
discriminating.
right. Well,
You're
you're pointing the
And
finger
it's
at a group of
dangerous.
people, and you're saying you're the result of this. But in actuality, it's actually the American government that did that, and they created it. So point the finger at them.
And it's dangerous because what you're doing is, well, as long as I'm not gay, I won't catch this. Yeah, ask a bunch of straight people who got it
Right.
how that feels.
See,
Mm-hmm.
that's the problem is that the more we show acceptance, the more people won't feel like they have to be on the down low. The more people will feel like they can come to their wives and let them know, look, I'm having these issues and maybe can we talk about it? I'm not trying to, tell you something wrong because we're dealing with bisexuality at this level. And some people
Hmm.
just think black and white when it's really gray. There's a whole spectrum if you study the dynamics of what it even means to be a sexual being. We're not all the way straight or all the way gay. It's always some
It's a
grayness in
spectrum.
there. But it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Stephen said, it's freedom of choice, it's freedom of acceptance. Now you can accept yourself and still live a straight lifestyle. You can accept yourself and still live a gay lifestyle. You can accept yourself and still live a bisexual lifestyle. The problem comes in with deception and taking
Yes.
that
When it involves
deception
another person.
and weaponize it against the person that you're with by not allowing them
Hmm.
to make their freedom of choice to be with you. That's the
right.
problem. That's one part of the problem, I should say.
Well, the
Yeah.
thing with it is that we also, in conjunction with that, is that we also have to, well, okay, in my perspective, I think we also have to realize that in my mind, I view it as like a mental health issue in terms of that, and it's just something that needs to be managed. So if you
No,
choose
not
to have,
anymore. It used to be in the DSM, but not anymore. I
yeah,
think it
until
was in the 70s.
1971,
Yeah,
yeah.
71. Yeah. So now it's just considered an actual part of human sexuality.
Yeah,
And
but they
there are
But you got to
some,
understand
but they
when
added.
did they do
I want.
that? They did that when population control
Yeah.
was was crucial. That they
mhm.
started pinpointing how to control population control. So they took that off the mental health, whatever it's called, that
The
book.
DSM.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
DSM.
want to. I want to add something in regards to that. Even though they took out homosexuality, they
Hmm.
also added a term called gender identity disorder,
They did,
Yes.
yeah.
and so forth. They added some other uh, uh, disorders that kind of make up that. Even
Hmm.
though
Yep,
they
that is
took out
essentially the same thing.
homosexuality, yeah. So, in a sense, from when you look at it from a
They
just
reworded it.
from an optics, from a fundamental standpoint, yeah, they took it out, but they kind of adjusted it.
Reworded it.
Yeah, reworded it in another way to give a slightly different meaning. In a
Yep.
sense.
Yeah.
I will say
So
gender
it's still a
identity,
mental
Or
health
gender
sexual
issue.
identity are not
orientation
the same.
disorder, some stuff like that.
Yeah,
They put a
Because
little
look,
pizzazz in it. Yeah.
let me just interject for a second. So gender identity is also like it's not the same as sexuality. Case in point, like a lot of women in the 90s like to dress like boys, right? But they would consider themselves heterosexual women. So as far as gender identity
That's true.
being a mental illness, I think a lot of women that I know, they grew up
Mhm.
dressing like me. And then
Tomboys.
even when I was a kid, I never liked to play with like makeup and stuff, but I did like certain things that would be considered more feminine as a kid. As I got older, I started liking more masculine things. So I don't think that gender identity and sexuality are the same thing, just for me personally, but
Right.
I think everybody has their own.
Well, there's a thing
I
as
was,
terms of
Gender
metrosexual where you can still
identity,
be cognizant of,
yeah.
gender identity, for the most part, when you look at it, is an in-depth psychological issue with you physically all the way around it as it relates to your body organs and how you see yourself as it relates to the sex that you feel that you're supposed to be,
Right.
as opposed to reality of what you really are. And also, we also have to look at, when you look at the symptomology of gender identity, people who engage, who necessarily have this particular disorder, they may engage in doing things to self-mutilate and do things to damage
Yeah.
themselves in that process. So there's a certain level of extremity with your behavior that kind of separates, as opposed to somebody that may want to just dress a certain way or
See,
act a certain way.
that's something that confuses me too, with the medical procedures that are involved with that, like with a lot of these transformers. Like, I'm confused with that whole realm right there. I just don't even talk about it.
Many of them have to get evaluated too before you even do that procedure.
Well, some Diderot, I've seen some transformers that don't even have the surgery, which is weird. And I Googled it and I was horrified. Because you're a woman up top and you're a man at the bottom. That was some freaky shit.
I know y'all heard about a lot of dudes, like what's his name, Malik Yoba,
Malik Yoba, yeah.
Yeah, like some dudes, they have a fetish for
Yeah.
I guess they just call it chicks with dicks. I don't
Transformers.
know. But like
Yeah.
that's what I mean by like gender identity and sexuality. It doesn't always go to that level where somebody has to like self-mutilate themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't just stop there. It's a really broad spectrum of sexual orientation. So basically, all it's saying is that all realms of anything dealing with other than heterosexual, and you're acting on that impulse or that drive that gives you normalcy to yourself. So for a gay person, being with another person that is the same sex is normal to them. In fact, they repulse the opposite sex in some cases.
But
Then
sometimes
you
they
have
never
that
even
gray
tried it.
area. So yeah, that's what I'm saying about the
They never even
spectrum.
tried it to know.
Yeah.
They never even, a lot of them didn't even try to know, because we're so
They're still
open with
virgins.
it as a society. Yeah, open with it as a society. They they make one choice. They're like, oh well, I'm this way, and they've never even experienced what it is like to be with a woman.
To even
And
know.
oftentimes, I've heard that sex is more in like I've heard from gay men that they've said that they enjoyed the experience more so with women than they did men. So I don't understand that part.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people don't know the biology, and I'm pretty sure Didi can speak on this more because he's in the actual field of study to be all around therapist in that way. So I'm pretty sure your education can speak better than what I'm learning now because I hadn't got that deep, but I do understand this much about it. There is a gland that men have that when it's stroked, it brings pleasure. So it's that particular area that women have in them in a different way, of course, but nonetheless, it's called the G spot, if you will. But for men, it's the gland and it's reached from the rear. So if women get with men that want them to perform certain sex acts that is conducive of what it even
Oh
be
Lord.
yeah. So you may find some men that are actually straight, but part of their sex life includes the act of pugging. I'm not sure if that's the right terminology. I'm still learning about it. So yeah,
Yeah,
this
you're
is
right.
actually
Pegging.
taught in my university. This is something
Yeah,
we're
it's
learning.
pegging. Their G spot is located in their ass.
Okay, there you go. Okay, maybe you can speak more because I'm just now cracking open the page to this. So yes.
Yeah, I learned about this in college as well. Um, yeah, that's true. Apparently, if you stick your finger in a man's ass, that'll make his climax that much more strong. But I found in my sexual experience that any dude I've ever dated don't want his ass touched at all. Nothing to do with his ass being touched.
Right?
I mean, they don't have a problem sticking their tongue in mine, but they don't want theirs being touched at all. I'm just saying. I'm just keeping it a buck today on this
Yeah,
line.
what I'm reading is it's a small section of men. It's not like every man wants that. It's just that I'm speaking to the section that do, that they're actually they're actually heterosexual. They don't want nothing to do with a male, but they perform that sex. So it's like a chain link in our learning. So we're chain link learning. So that links to the idea behind the sex act itself when it comes to men on men, and why some men would say, okay, why is he sexually attracted? It's not just the attraction or the allure. In most cases, when they're actually a couple, it's the sex itself. You see, so it's something that can be, how you say, a satisfying situation for that person because they are therefore already attracted. It's almost like a homosexual, excuse me, I said that backwards. It's almost like a heterosexual relationship. Like the fit of a man with a woman is perfect. So if that's the case, and this guy is with another guy and their fit happens to reach that part, that creates the situation what they call bottom. So the female portion or the female intricacies of this male is more pronounced. So you may catch him developing breasts. So, because I was hoping that Stephen would have stayed because I was trying to go somewhere with that, and that shock factor that he felt in helping him understand how is this possible, because the estrogen has been awakened in certain men to a degree, like testosterone can be awakened in women to a certain degree. What does she do? Body build, lift. And the more she does this, the more she puts on muscle, the more she would take on more testosterone. So it works in reverse for men. If you stop going to the gym, if you start, I say, taking supplements, or if just have it innate in you, you're on that spectrum to where you are more prone, or it could be like the dude that sang on Wendy Williams that messed around with Kevin Hunter's, allegedly. He came on Wine with Tay, had a full interview and explained that he is not just a man, but a female in his lower genitals. So you have like this spectrum of people, and it goes all the way up to, in my personal point of view, and I would like to write a thesis on this. Excuse me, a paper on this, a research paper. All the way up to hermaphrodite. You get what I'm saying? So you have like this straight man. Just all the way masculine man. This boom, like you said, Miss Tiffany, the guy that had absolutely nothing to do with his butt being touched, all the way up to the spectrum, all the way through into morphodite
Right.
is morphoditeism. So am I wrong on that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right, but it's a very small, minute amount of people. That's the thing,
Yes, very small. Mm-hmm.
Very small.
Okay. I just want to point out somebody that a lot of people don't know was a hermaphrodite, Akhenaten, who was like Hotep the Fourth. He was a hermaphrodite, and he had really wide hips, kind of like a female would have, and he was still able to be king. You know what I mean? And he was still. I don't know if he had kids. I'm pretty sure he did.
He had a son, and he was very, very loving, devoted father, almost motherly type of father. He kissed
Yeah.
on his son. He caressed his son. He cared for his son. His son was his everything. I think his son died, if I'm not
Isn't his son
mistaken.
Amen is the son, right?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
The son is Amen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Him.
Okay. So yeah, and just to show you that this, like the whole thing in Africa now, where they would literally kill their sons. Like I've heard people say, "I would kill my son if he was gay." Well, in Africa at that time, like Akhenaten was not the reason people had an issue with Akhenaten had nothing to do with his appearance, his hips. He still had a wife and all that, many wives. So it wasn't like an issue. The issue was more so about he wanted to like erase the multi concepts of the gods and just say there's one sun disk.
Yeah.
And that was like the real reason that Akhenaten was like
He was
such
the
a
world's first
controversial.
monotheist.
He wanted to get rid of Ra and what was the other one? Ra.
He was a monotheist.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But he worshipped the sun. He was a sun emperor.
Yes, Osiris.
Yeah, Osiris.
Yeah, the thing is, like in the Egyptian culture, they do recognize that there is one. They just say that the one expresses itself in many, many ways. So, like, I think with Akhenaten, I don't disagree with Atenism either, because he's really just saying that we're all basically light beings that go back to the sun. But I think that like a lot of people misunderstand the term monotheism, because it's like the Egyptians did believe that there's only one.
Yeah.
They just said that the one is just very, very, there's so many variations to one being.
Yeah.
And that's what we
They
represent.
were polytheism. Yeah.
Yes. So like with him, I'm just using him as an example, like hermaphrodites.
Yeah.
That goes back
To ancient.
The farther we go back in history, the differences in gender, or I guess sexuality, it gets more refined, because now we're more split. But if we go back further early on in human history, like there's animals.
We were pure.
There's animals like clownfish that actually lay eggs. The males do.
Yeah.
Like different animals.
And so does the seahorse.
Yeah, the seahorse. So like there's different animals that either change gender throughout the course of their life, or they do things the opposite. Like the males will carry the eggs and the woman will fertilize, or vice versa. There's so many different, like when you study animals and microbiology and cell division and morphogenesis and stuff like that, like the way that life happens, we kind of limit it to, okay, it just has to be a human male and a human female, but there's other life forms that we're not necessarily studied to limit them in that way. So when I look at it, like Akhenaten is still celebrated, even though he kind of Kemetic religion. He's not really hated for being a hermaphrodite. The issue is more so like
political. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, because when you look at the whole spectrum in that light and then carry it further beyond the generations that we have and we know in our recent time and get it from an ancient perspective, then you can see clearly. And when you're able to do that, then you have to question science. Has science advanced to a stage that is clever enough to see the nuances that are not really seen in microbiology? I mean, you can say nanobiology. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would say
straws. Just digging for straws.
We're gonna kind of have to go back to the topic. I don't want to go too much into the science. That's not the topic, you know. But I see where you coming from there. But I don't want to get into that.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna kind of bring it back. Brother Speak, do you have any other comments about the current topic? Bring it up about Kirk Franklin and his son and so forth, or that whole family situation, or any similar situation that you may have encountered or known someone else, and that was somewhat the same.
As far as having a like disagreement with their father and a strange relationship with their father, kind of like that.
Yeah, anything in that realm.
Not off the top of my head. Well, the one I would say was what kind of the closest to that was, I have a coworker, but him and his father weren't like, they weren't separated by divorce or anything. He was there, but he wasn't, I would say, like a father figure to him.
Right.
You know, he kind of was hands off with his son. His mother took care of everything, and so when the mother died, you know, they never had a good relationship. Even with therapy, it was never repaired.
Okay.
So they're kind of, they live in the same house, but they're estranged in a sense. So it's kind of like that's why I think, like, you know, even if you don't have the relationship with the mother, you should have that relationship with your son. You know, even if you know, you're a celebrity and all that. I mean, you should be in your son's life. There should be no reason why that son should have this animosity towards you, and you should have that towards him as well, because it's sad, and you know, and it leads to stuff like this where you cussing him out. I mean, literally cussing him out over the phone. You treating him like some dude on the street. I'm like, that's.
But let's not be pretentious here. Let's be real, okay? When you have kids and grown kids, sometimes you go back and forth with your grown kids. Okay, I'm not saying this right. I'm not trying to give this man no kind of excuse. But I think family matters should be just that, family. When you take it to a level of public opinion and public judgment and public scrutiny, now you're inviting the world to make a call on what could potentially be just another situation that y'all normally go through when y'all would disagree, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying this right. I'm not, in fact, it's wrong. It is. It's wrong for somebody to say, I'm going to break your neck. This is your father, you know, telling you he gonna break your neck, you know. Now, when you're a parent, what you do? You go to the finest stores when you make that first baby. You go to, back in my day, everything my baby had came from Montgomery Ward. Everything. The baby crib, clothes, shoes, socks, everything. Pampers. I didn't put a pamper on him till he was damn near one. Everything was cloth with the duck pen. First baby. Second baby, it was loves. Anything I could find out of Walmart. Okay. And when they grow up, they stand up to you, especially in the teen years. They try you. They try their daddy. They daddy and them, they get out there and they scrap, especially in the country. I'm from the country. So yeah, they scrap. They weren't trying to hurt each other. It's just he's reached his, I'm Simba the king now. No, I'm Mustafa, your daddy, and we'll whoop your butt. Yes, I will. I will whoop your butt with all respectality here. Now, it's not about you actually want to hurt your child. It's just that level of respect is necessary to remain intact because you are the matriarch, you are the patriarch of your family, your immediate family. And when you lose that respect from your child, regardless of the situation, I don't care what happened, and you provoke your parent to say something to you in that manner, you got to weigh both sides of the coin before you make your final call. Because it's just unrealistic to say that this man out of the blue sky got on the phone, his daddy just so happened to just curse him out for no apparent reason and told him he was going to break his neck. Now, should he have said that? Hell no. I don't agree with what he said, but I understand what it's like to be a parent of a grown ass child. You see, and regardless of whatever happened, he survived his situation. Do they need therapy? Yes. I feel like they need therapy, counseling, anything they could get that's wholesome that will patch the issues of their lives back together. Unfortunately, they're human at the end of the day, and we do make mistakes as parents. Okay. There are times when the stroller will get away from you while you're going uphill, and the stroller decides it wants to go backwards away from you because you're trying to pull the damn baby bag over your shoulder and you let one handle go, and your child is about to go into traffic, and you have to do everything inhumanly powerful to catch that little the freakazoid from being run over, you know, and you recover just in the nick of time, and you go right back up the same hill because that's the way you have to go, and there's no shortcut. There are times when you will go get in the middle of a fight with grown ass children, teenagers, people pulling out pistols, boards, and sticks, and you're watching your child be mutilated. And all you could do is go windmill city on anything in sight that's trying to get to your baby so you can get between them and your child and get the ambulance to him in time to save his life. That same child will provoke you to say some crazy shit, especially when they get out of line and start disrespecting the house they live under or up under, or just the person themselves. So we can't be pretentious with these people. They black, they come from a black, I don't care how much money that man got. And we over here making all of this, you know, judgment call. We don't know the entire situation. And a lot of kids do that. They want somebody to take their side, especially when they're not in the right, especially when they're being disrespectful, especially when they have lost their complete minds and said some outlandish shit. Regardless of how he feels about his daddy, right or wrong or indifferent, he should still have a level of respect. I don't care if that man beat him to the end of his life. And I'm not saying that's right. He should go to jail for that. But what I'm saying to you is that even still, with all things being logical and reasonable, you should always respect your parents and never shame them. If you're from the Bible, you know this. You never bring your family to shame because that shames you. At the end of the day, they're going to look at you too. They're not going to just look at him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
So Tiff, you've been quiet. What you thinking? Any thoughts? Are you there, Tiffany?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm here.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Or you just kind of quiet right now?
Nope, just listening. I pretty much
Okay.
said what I had to say. I think
Yeah.
the elephant in the room is the church.
Right.
The whole religious concept.
Yeah. Kenneth, right. Kenneth, where you at, Kenneth? You came in and you popped out. So wanted to hear his commentary. He usually comes in and out. So I look at this, you know, I just think that when you look at the whole thing, I just think that this was just something that, you know, was typical of their relationship. There are probably things they haven't talked about yet that are going to come out. I'm really not for them airing out their dirty laundry out to the world like this. And I know that Kirk Franklin has done multiple interviews. Kirk Franklin's stepmother also has done interviews, I think, and so forth. So everybody's out there responding to stuff, and I just think that they're better off trying to just stay quiet and let this go away. You know, I mean, that's just my perspective. And I think that the more they make a presence on media and being interviewed, the longer this is going to be drawn out. You know, and I just want to preface this for 1 second, was that the fact that his son did not show the whole video or the audio in which Kirk Franklin contacted their therapist by phone to try to get them to calm down or at least communicate or whatever. And Kerrion um, refused to participate. And I think that's something that needs to be, discussed with the fact that, there's obviously a means of trying to help him. But I think that this is also something I really think that sometimes when you're in a family therapeutic situation, the dynamic is that you may have an enabler. They kind of talk about things that happen in the family. There's a scapegoat, an enabler. There's a person that's, the antagonizer and stuff like that. I really think that our mascot and so forth, I really think as a black sheep of the family, and they think he's the problem instead of everybody in that family looking at themselves as partially being part of the problem, and
Right.
yeah, see that they all look at him as the problem. Everybody that's in that family is the problem. The stepmom, his mother, his sister, because remember they showed something in which when that exchange happened, the daughter, the adopted daughter, I may say, chastised and said stuff back to Kerrion about he was wrong for whatever, and they feel like he had all opportunities of this and that and stuff like that. So that's obviously a disconnect, and they're not even really close as sister and brother. They don't see themselves. They don't even have a relationship. They don't even see themselves as sister and brother, even through marriage. It's almost like it's just they're like they don't see themselves as related. So to me, that's an across the board. So anybody has any comments on that?
Yeah, I would say I agree with you, and it's always seemed like it's in these situations. It's like you said, it's look at it's the man's fault and nobody else's, but we don't look at the whole dynamic of the relationship, and they're gonna look at it as where it was Kerrion's fault for putting this out in the recording this stuff, which yeah, he was wrong in that. But it just shows you this whole family. This just been a family feud that's been going on for years and years, and Kurt was trying, and but it just. But I think it kind of reminded me like my brother. He was estranged from his daughter. One of his daughters. He never even had a relationship with him for a long time, and he finally met her. It's about maybe 8 years ago, and
oh wow,
and yeah. So it was crazy, and I didn't even know I had these nieces. So we all took this picture and everything. He tried to, give some fatherly advice, and try to have a relationship with him. But the thing of it is, she didn't know him. So to her, that was just another dude. It wasn't her dad. It was that's just some dude that just happened to be her father. So when he tried to do that, she resisted, and she threatened her, and some friends of her threatened him. And my mother had to talk to him and said, hey, you can't come up there and try to be a father when you've never been a father for all this time. So I think that it's one of the things that's not looked at is that they had this feud for a long ass time. And, when Kirk did try to help, but this is something that you should expect there's going to be a lot of resistance from that.
Right? Yeah, there's going to be a level of resistance that will happen, and you have to take your time and be patient.
Mm-hmm.
That is not going to be done overnight. Renaissance man, give me 1 second. I'm gonna send the link out. But you have to be patient in that. And you know what I encourage in those situations, because I've encountered that, particularly when somebody's been out for whatever the reason is. You know, it could be a variety of reasons. It's because, you know, hey, they didn't get along, that happened, you know, what have you. And you know, we try to promote, like, hey, you can't. This is not going to be. This didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to, you know, be resolved overnight. And you have to give an adjustment period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has to have an adjustment period of you just communicate, get to know each other, build rapport, develop a bond, and you just can't go into somebody's life thinking they just gonna open arms and just let you in like that without having, you know, when our kids that you raise, they give you that, they allow them, they pretty much are open and receptive to that parental treatment, because they understand that you raised them and you put the time in and you done things that warrant you having that position. But if you've been out for, you know, 8 years and you know, depending on the age, I mean, you basically just have to start from the plant some seeds, you know.
Yeah, you basically got to start from scratch.
Yeah,
and you know, and not to, like, I kind of disagree with Oracle's point about the whole you have to give them respect as a parent. If you never raised this person, or there's been so much animosity, you should not, as a person, expect to be respected as a parent, as a person who was raising that person.
It's
Now,
subjective. You know, if you choose to disrespect them just because they didn't raise you, or life happened and you got the short end of the stick, I get it. But what I'm saying to you is a holistic respect. Just like I respect you as a person, just like I respect
right,
my enemy as a person, just like I respect that type of respect. It has to start somewhere. And
right,
if that person even cares for 1 second to even at some point say, yeah, I'm your father, I wasn't there, but I'm here now. If they even come at you, just giving them an opportunity in that way is somewhere to start as a grown person. I'm not talking about a kid. I'm talking about a grown adult. Okay? As grown adults, regardless of your situation, you survived it, we should have some level of respect for the person that gave us biological sustenance to be here. And that's all I'm saying, is that they don't have to, oh, you're my dad and I got to do everything you say now. No, of course not. Of course, that bridge has to be built, but it has
mm-hmm,
to start somewhere as an adult child. You know, I'm not going to go to my mother if she's never been there and go, okay, well, I don't respect you. No, if she comes to me, this never happened to me. I'm just hypothetical on all this. This is all hypothetical, y'all.
All right.
So, yes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah. So let me go to Renaissance man. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, D Darrell? Did you
What,
see
man?
my email?
Nah, you sent me an email?
Yeah, I sent. It's funny because I was going to ask you to talk about this very topic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I sent you a email literally to the one that's on your YouTube page.
You know what? Somebody been telling me, what is it, the is it Amburn 1718?
I'd have to go back and look. It's just the one that, like, when you go to your page and you click the about section, it'll ask like contact, and then you have to say ask for their and it'll give you an email address.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out, because you're the second person that sent me something and I ain't get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somebody else. Is it on D Darrell the Rebirth or Life Solutions?
It's on this one. It's D Health Per World is
You got that one. That's the one everybody been sending stuff to.
yeah, D Health Per World at Gmail. Yeah, that's the one I sent it to.
Oh, damn! I need to start checking that one. I don't. I'm gonna have to check it. That's why I didn't get it, because it was on that one. Okay,
Yeah,
no problem.
No, it was funny because, like I said, I wanted to ask you about this topic from your professional perspective because I saw a lot of people saying, I don't think, Kirk has to apologize publicly, but I did see a lot of people sort of acting like he did nothing wrong in the situation,
Oh, he did
and
wrong.
I was kind of like, to me, it kind of made me think: have people sort of normalized, this type of behavior as being normal in a parent's relationship?
I'm
You
a,
know, yeah.
now
Be,
I'm gonna say this, man. In our community, black people as a whole, as parents, we talk a little bit more harsher to our children than what from my observation, as far as like the way we talk and discipline, we have a tendency to be a little bit more harsher in our communication with our kids than other groups of people. From my observation over the last 20 plus years. I mean, so
I agree. I think part of that is just driven by. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think part of it is ego, but I think part of it is also just the consequences of feeling like your child's gonna go out in the world and be rebellious.
right.
So I think it's a little bit of both of that. But
Mhm.
also what I hear is just like because I mean my mother, she's talked to me about how her mother talked to her, you
Right,
know, called her nappy headed and this and that, go
right.
sit down and shut it. Like that type of stuff, I think no, like that type of stuff I hear, and when it becomes normalized, I think people don't realize how abusive and how damaging that could be to our community, especially
Yeah,
to the relationships.
that's part of the post traumatic slave syndrome. When because we in turn took some of the negatives of how as being in chattel slavery, we reverted that once we were free. As far as discipline, we took up some of the same disciplinary tactics that were given to us when we were being disciplined. And once we were free, we showed those same things to our children, both verbally and physically. That's why in our community, corporal punishment is highly used more than other groups. And because I'm not saying that you shouldn't spank your children, because I'm an advocate of whooping ass, but but at the same time, we and a lot of the families in our community, that's the only, and I mean the only use of parenting. And parenting is more than just spanking children. You have to teach, you have to reinforce, you have to uh, you know
You're hitting it on the head. The other thing too is
you
even
know
when people
kind
do
of
revert.
reframe and so forth. You can yeah, yeah.
No, no, I was gonna say the only thing
Hello.
that you can you hear me?
Yeah, you good? I can hear you.
Can you hear me, Dieter? Okay, okay. No, the only thing I was
Yeah,
gonna
I can.
say was
You
just
good?
even when people do decide to discipline their kids, it a lot of times it's not even done in a way that's productive. Like if you do decide that you're going to spank your child, you have some parents who will just do it out of anger and not even explain why. Make sure their kids understand this is being done out of love. They'll just pretty
Yes.
much go over the top with it, and
And
it's like, yeah, go
and
ahead.
yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, because one of the first things that I teach in parenting for kids is that you never spank your children in anger. That's one of the leading causes of CPS cases. Spanking children in anger, because when you spank children in anger, you're more likely to bruise and cause damage that can physically be seen and cause a CPS case. And that's like a fundamental thing that we try to uh, teach parents, because that's one of the biggest mistakes. A lot of these parents that get CPS cases, they is because they were really angry when they spanked the child. Instead of calm, even if you're gonna spank them, at least be calm enough that you don't do anything inadvertently to harm the child.
Yeah, that, and I was gonna say too with the Kirk Franklin situation. One of the things my understanding is this is his oldest son.
Yes, it is.
And from my understanding is that they, I guess his life probably was not as stable when he was probably born. So I'm sure there's some resentment on his son's part because, if you go from struggling when you're born and then the kids behind you are born and then, you're Kirk Franklin, the superstar, you're a lot more settled, a lot more stable. You're able to give them a lot more time, attention, and resources than they got. They're just going to feel some type of way about that.
Let me reiterate the dynamics because I kind of talked about it several times. So Kirk Franklin, this is his only biological child. When Kirk Franklin had Kerrion, he was like 18 years old. The mother, they both were like really young. Kirk Franklin's career didn't take off until his early 20s, maybe around 22, 23-ish, something like that. At that time, Kirk Franklin married another woman and adopted his daughter.
Oh, okay? Wow.
And so that's what I talked a lot about, the whole family dynamics of the fact of this because she mentioned in the exchange about him being entitled and feeling this way. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he basically married a woman and adopted her child, but chose not to marry his mother and actually had a biological child. And the fact that that child grew up in the household with Kirk Franklin with all the advantages and so forth, so that could be a great deal of entitlement as it relates to the dynamic of where he stood in that family tree.
Yeah. It's just, I'm sure, as a professional, I'm sure you see the dynamics, even with, with, hey, if you have kids, but they don't live with you, even if you're the best parent in the world, there's still going to be some differences between, parents who literally live in the house with their kids every day and have that interaction.
Right.
And when you have siblings, who get two different outcomes from that, one feeling like, hey, he was there, I got to see him every day, he picked me up from school, this and that, those little things we take for granted, that adds up and that builds resentment to the kids who didn't get that
exactly,
who didn't get that experience.
And you know what, Renaissance man, that is invaluable interaction that money can't pay for. Money can't buy that. Yeah, and that was the issue when I was arguing with people in a certain space that starts with an M. I was trying to, we were explaining that, you're not as a man with, if you got 3-4 kids in 3-4 households, they not getting equal treatment. It's going to be unequal treatment towards those children. Somebody's going to be unsatisfied. Somebody's going to be mad. Everybody pocket watching. You gave one this and another that. You're too spread thin. You're not going to be the best father to all those children. Not to say you're not trying, but you're just not going to be the best. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's totally your fault, but that's the circumstance you put yourself in. That's really how you have to look at it.
And you miss those invaluable experiences of just, having family dinner every night together.
Exactly.
You miss all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What's up,
It's
Maurice?
Unfortunate. Oh, hi. How are you?
Nah, what's up, Maurice? Joe, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, D? It's been a minute, man.
Welcome to the Conscious Clientele, baby.
Hey, I saw this title on here, and I can relate to Kirk Franklin, some stuff that's going on with him. I'm a big fan of Kirk Franklin. I went to Wisconsin and everything, and
cool.
And I do know his, what I'm saying. I followed him for a long time, and a lot of his similarities are like similarities to the way I raised my children. And I have my first 3 children. I had them young. I had my first child at 15, 16, and 17, all by the same woman, right? And then I ended up getting married and had these last 2 kids by my ex-wife. We was married for 14 years, and they received me a different way. They didn't have this attitude like I older enough. You know what I'm saying? Because I was around them. By me being young, like Kirk Franklin was a young father. And believe it or not, a lot of them can take you there, and they'll think that you owe them something. And I used to have this attitude like I owed my kids something. Like, you know what? I ain't been around, so I was catering to them a lot. And I remember the lady who adopted my oldest kids and gave them back to me. as they got older. She just gave them to me, and me, I kept on catering to them, like doing this, like, you know what, I didn't say I owed them, but I had this attitude like I owed them. But then she told me
you was trying to make up for lost time through guilt.
Yeah. And
right.
That's where people can go wrong as in acting like you owe them. And I've learned this. I have came to a reality in my life. The past is the past. You don't owe them nothing. And the way I saw Kirk Franklin said it, I don't owe you nothing, because I've dealt with the same things with my old. And I'm being real with you. I got 5 kids. Look, my 3 oldest by the other woman, they're not like my younger ones. But me and my oldest daughter, we ain't even talked in years. And I have custody of me and my ex-wife. We split custody of my 14-year-old grandson. But that's a different story. But they're not going to receive you a certain way. They're going to hold resentment. Not everybody's like me, because my father ain't been around me my whole life. But I'm more forgiving than a lot of them are.
Right, right.
Yeah, people that ain't forgiving, and I'm sorry, but that's still his daddy. People are going to look at him. Oh, he's a minister of the gospel. No. He's still I'm still your son. I'm still your daddy, and that's it. That's the attitude that he's in. You know what? I'm actually glad he said that. It showed him that Christians are not perfect. No one is perfect. There is some stuff that people need to patch up, but you got to get that attitude that you owe them out of your life, out of your head. You got to get that out of your head. No, look, Kirk Franklin don't owe his son nothing. Not I hate to say it, but not even counseling can help that. That's something them two got to work out.
Well, I won't say counseling ain't gonna help that, but what I can say, the understanding of that his dad don't owe him something, that's something that would be facilitated to that aspect. Mm-hmm. But there's so many things, because the brother had mental illness, he had some sexual, he had issues of being gay, just the whole thing of the daughter, how she was. There's a lot. It wasn't just limited, and I think people gotta understand. It's not limited just to Kirk Franklin and his son. This situation was a manifestation of Kirk's of Kerrion's mother, Kirk's wife, and his daughter. As a whole issue with them, a circular issue with everybody that's involved. And
I was going to say, D-Darrell, even Kirk himself, because my understanding is when I believe his parents gave him up as well when he was born. I'm pretty sure. I don't think his mother or father. I think maybe his grandmother raised Kirk.
Oh, okay.
Grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah. So even his biological parents weren't there. So I mean, you're talking about something that literally could be turned around and passed down. He has issues that he's probably still dealing with, and then you have a son who sort of has that same sort of issue that some of that you could have passed down inadvertently.
So Mo, let me ask you this question.
All right.
Have you ever aggressively talked to your children as adults the way Kirk talked to his children?
Oh yes, most definitely.
Okay, now talk to me about what triggered it that you felt you had to talk that aggressive to them. If you don't mind, just
you disrespect me, and believe it or not, I let them talk to me a certain way for so long. So you know what?
Oh, so they was like disrespectful as he was to Kirk. They was like cursing. They would curse you out or talk to you crazy.
Oh yes. Oh man, it was crazy.
Oh, wow.
It started getting jealous of my 2 younger kids. Start getting jealous. Oh, you treat them better. I said they don't treat me like you do. And I was very patient. I said, you know what? Even my mother came back. You know what? You didn't raise them. So
right.
They're gonna, and I was like really trying to take them out. I was actually catering to them. I was actually more than my younger ones, like feeling more guilty. And like, no, leave them alone. I got this. I'm gonna handle this. I thought I could handle this, and I really couldn't. And all of a sudden, they said you have to let them go. They're eventually going to come back. And what I did, I let them go. And
so let me ask you this: what about the mother? Was she involved in kind of swaying them to think this way, or was she?
Actually, their mother never was in their life. Their mother had left them, and then when I first met my ex-wife, I had 3 kids already. Actually, when I went through a divorce with her, they still stayed with her. They still call her mother right there.
So they have a lot of, man, your kids went through a lot, my brother. I mean, I know what you're saying, but
yeah,
that's a lot for children to not have their dad and they lost their mother. That's a lot to kind of
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
and I came through later on and got my life together.
Right.
Courts and everything, and you know, and they weren't even teenagers yet. You know, like with the older was a teenager, but I took care of them as they got older, but there was still some resentment, and it's still there. You know, and they'll still like be slick like you wasn't there for me. And I was 15. I'm not gonna blame the age or nothing, because my grandma told me like don't give me that you was 15 stuff, because you was look. You were not old enough to keep that. You still took that thing out your pants,
right?
You know, I mean, I don't want to blame that. I used to blame that. Oh, I was young. I don't do that anymore, and I've learned that. You know,
right? Okay.
But it depends the relationship. If you raise the kids, if you've been there, they're going to receive you a different way. I think he had a different relationship, even though that daughter that he got that's not his biological still received them, because you know he raised her. She has a different type of love. You know, and no resentment, because it's more like, you know what, you've been there for me.
Right. Renaissance, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and you can speak on this. Even if you've got two families where you know, the mother and father is married and there's a divorce that occurred, I didn't realize how much traumatic that was on kids. So I was in college, and we had to write a paper. This guy in my group who I had to read his paper, and he literally talked about how, you know, when his parents got divorced, just how hard it was on him. And see, what, you know, my father passed when I was young, so I didn't, you know, that's a little bit different. And then my friends, their parents were still married, so I rarely had friends who had parents who were divorced like that. So when I actually came in contact with someone who actually, you know, wrote it down and talked about how much of an issue it was, it really opened my eyes to just, you know, really how much people can be hurt by that. Because like I said, I was coming from the perspective of my father just died, so it was a little bit different.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, man, it's all types of different circumstances, you know what I'm saying, that can affect things. But yeah, man, a divorce has a horrible effect on kids. You know, it's very difficult for them to adjust to what appeared one way, and now it's totally different. You know, that's not easy for kids to deal with.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it affects them later in life. I mean, it affects how you view relationships. I know for me in particular, you know, I wasn't in a real rush to get married or anything like that. Even, you know, with my ex, you know, she came from a family where her parents were together. They were married. Even when I met them, they were married for at least 20-something years when I first met my ex, and they're still married to this day. And so they coming from an environment that you stay together regardless. Right. And I'm coming from an environment where we don't there was no stable relationship, and even if it was there was a relationship, there's always drama. Right. So we both had like a lot. We had clashes with that. So yeah, I don't think people really get when parents split up how much of an effect it is. They expect the kids to just get over it, but that stuff lasts forever.
Yeah, that's an unforgivable. That's an experience that carries throughout life. It actually can affect how children approach marriage and approach relationships, depending on the effect. So, well,
and
guys,
I just wanted to quickly say, and I wonder if some of these women truly understand, you know, when you go from man to man and have him, you know, a man going in and out of your child's life like that, do they really understand the consequences of that?
No, I don't think.
I don't think that most women don't. They're looking at it could be revenge. It could be, it's an emotional thing. A lot of that stuff is done out of emotion instead of looking at the long-term consequences and so forth.
And it also it will also affect that son, especially if it's a son, how they view their own mother. Because you're having you're having men all around. I say this in jest, but it's kind of true if you think about it. A lot of black sons tend to be cucks because we usually, the son is usually seen as the man of the house.
Yep.
But mother is going around bringing all these different dudes in, and you as a son, you can't do nothing about it. You basically turn them into a cuck, and it's just that can have a very damaging effect on his view on not only just his mother but also women in general.
Right. Okay. So I gotta wrap it up, guys. I got my last session of the day. I was basically taking y'all on a ride with me. Appreciate you for coming in, Maurice. Do you want to? I'm gonna end with you last. I'm gonna start with the Oracle, and I'm gonna end with you. Go ahead, Miss Oracle. If any last words? Miss Oracle, are you there? Okay, she's probably preoccupied. Let me go ahead with Brother Speak.
Okay, well, this situation with Kirk Franklin and his son, it's just an example of what happens when there is a separation between the mother and the father, and where people move on with their lives, maybe get some fame, maybe not.
Yes, thank you for having me on the show. This is very enlightening. Peace out, everybody. Y'all have a good one. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. All right, then. See you later.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
all right, Miss Oracle.
Good. All right, Oracle. Okay, Brother Speak.
Yeah, it's what happens when you have these separations between the mother and father. Now, that when one side has moved on, maybe one side is getting more success than the other side, and they have their new family and everything's good over there, but on the other side, it's not equal. There's a lot of drama on the other side. That's going to cause a lot of resentment, and now the whole family's feuding because one side feel like they're entitled, the other side feel like they don't even want to deal with this person because it's just a big family feud. And I think that for us to really solve a lot of the problems in our community, we got to understand that, hey, we do need to, even if we're not together, we do need to work together as the mother and father of the children and make sure we don't have this resentment. If it is, it's minor and not let it build and build to the point where to get to the point where we're arguing over on meat and somebody's recording this and now the world sees this.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Brother Speak.
No problem. And thank you for having me on the panel.
Yeah, no problem, man. Renaissance man.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me come up, D. Darrell. I appreciate you doing this topic. Like I said, I just want to hear your perspective from a professional standpoint, because I think these conversations are very needed in our community if we want to repair our community and really start having healthy families. So I appreciate you doing a video on this topic, and I'll catch up with you later.
All right, brother. Okay, brother Maurice Delp.
Hey, I appreciate you. I got to talk for a little bit. I popped on because this is what I've been talking about the Kirk Franklin situation with his son,
right.
and all I gotta say is we gotta hold ourselves accountable. Like even as a father, like myself, I look back. I admit to my kids that I wasn't the best father in the world. I had to keep on saying that I was young, but I said, you know what, life goes on. It's time to move on. But you know what? The kids are grown too, and they got to hold themselves accountable too. We cannot blame the past because I have a jacked up past with my parents too, and I let that go and moved on. And my mother, she's doing wonderful, raising a great daughter right now. And I even laugh at like that. You didn't even spoil us like that. She runs the whole house, but you know what? I'm happy that what she's doing now. You got to know that you still love your parent or love your son or whatever. We got to both hold ourselves accountable. None of us can't hold that anger. I can hear to say you the father, You got to be a better. No. He's grown too. He knows better too. You know, and us, we all got to hold ourselves accountable. But when you're younger, yeah. But when you get older, you apologize, move on, say things happen, and move on. And I'm stick to it. He should not go ahead and recorded that message and went public with it right there.
Right.
That should have never happened. Many times I cussed my kids out. I said worse. And when I was deep in ministry, when I was in church, I got angry and said things like, "Oh well, people say things." Peter cursed in the Bible. You look at that. You know, people have anger. We all fall short from God's glory. And Kirk Franklin, he fell short from God's glory. And that's it. Move on.
I feel you, man. All right, brother. Appreciate your commentary. Come back anytime, man. You're always welcome.
All right, I'll be back, brother.
All right, peace.
Peace.
All right, guys. This is D. Durrell with the Conscious Clientele. I'm out. Peace.